Good morning and welcome to the City of Palm Coast, a very special City Council business meeting this morning. It is Tuesday, November the 19th, 2024. It is 9:03 a.m. and we are in the community wing of City Hall. So with that, I thank you all for coming to visit and attend the very important happenings of today. And I'd ask you to please stand and join me in our Pledge of Allegiance. Following the pledge, you're welcome to remain standing for a moment of silence to reflect, meditate, pray, or pause for a moment. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. And if I could ask the clerk to call the roll, please. Present.
Vice Mayor Danko.
Here.
Councilmember Gambaro.
Here.
Councilmember Pontieri.
Present.
And Councilmember Clufus is absent.
Thank you. The first order of business on today's agenda, let's make sure everybody has a seat, is public participation. In order for city staff to be able to respond to your questions or concerns, please fill out a comment card with your contact information. The comment cards can be found on the table near the agendas or available from the Communications and Marketing Director seated in the back. Anyone wishing to speak may approach the podium, provide their name, and may speak for up to 3 minutes. Please be concise and to the point, avoid delaying or interrupting the proceedings, and do not make any irrelevant, impertinent, or slanderous comments. Any person who becomes disorderly may be barred from making any additional comments and may be removed. So I would ask if there are any members of the public that would like to make public comment for any items that are not on today's agenda. Please come forward. Yes, sir.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Howard Holly, and I own the business here in Palm Coast. We publish Evolve Magazine, Evolve News, and Parent Magazine in Flagler, St. Johns, and Volusia counties. I want to start by extending, on behalf of a new role I'm in as the CEO of the Chamber of Commerce and representing its board of directors, we want to express our appreciation for the service of David Alfin, Ed Danko, and Nick Clufus. I believe we should all say thanks to them for their community service. Imagine a school system, a city, or a county that cannot find anyone to run for office, right? Or one where people only run for office based on what it means for them and to them. It would really be unimaginable and unbearable. In that vein, I want to welcome the new community servants being sworn in today as well. Mike Norris, Ty Miller, and Ray Stevens. I look forward to working with all members of the new City Council as we go forward and in my role. The Chamber doesn't just represent businesses who are members of the Chamber. We also represent the business community, the thousands of businesses that make up this great city of ours. And I look forward to working with this council on what we hope is a shared vision. I want to state that vision. At the Palm Coast Flagler Chamber of Commerce, we envision the future of Palm Coast and Flagler County as a business-friendly, economically vital, and growth-ready community that enhances the quality of life experience for everyone who lives, works, or travels here. Now, I use the word growth-ready, and I know that could be contentious for some. But to those who want unbridled growth, the chamber says no. To those who want no growth, we don't think that's doable either. So what we have to figure out is how we can grow responsibly so that we can create the type of community and the type of quality of life that drew all of us here. I can speak for myself 17 years ago. So we look forward to partnering with this city council, this new city council, to continue making quality of life the magnet for this great city of Palm Coast. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Are there any, yes, yes, sir. Either one. Mrs. McDonald?
Good morning, Good morning, Robert McDonald. Permission to approach the council for 1 second? I got to show you something. After Mr. Norris gets done running for mayor, a couple of years from now, I want you to take a good look at this picture. You can pass it down. That's my 2-year-old grandson. He's going to be the next mayor.
All right, Mrs. McDonald, thank you for that. It's a little bit out of order, but I appreciate it, so please.
No.
Please,
It's part of my- it's
No,
part of-
please go ahead and proceed.
Okay. The reason I bring you that picture is because if you're on Facebook or you heard the news, we just lost a 4-year-old child down in Ormond. He drowned in a pond. A couple of months back, I fought like a junkyard dog to get free swimming lessons, and I was told we can't do it because not only my grandson, but other children in the city are too young. I'm sorry, that's a load of crap. We spend hundreds of thousands of dollars and millions of dollars on all other kinds of projects. Open up the pools, teach these kids how to swim. It's not going to cost us anything. How many more kids do we have to lose before you change the policies and let these kids learn how to swim? My grandson goes every week to a private swimming lesson. This is garbage. We spend all kinds of money. Let's do the right thing and do that. My second comment, and I'm going to catch hell for this, but at this point I don't care. Okay? It was just on Facebook and all over public news that we're having a discussion about naming something in John Ness's, our mayor and our good friend. I wanted to name this room, and I was told that it was a decision that was being discussed by the family, and then it kind of got buried. Well, now, the other day, they wanted to rename the community center in his name. No, that's wrong. And I'm going to fight you tooth and nail. I don't care who's sitting up there. I'm going to fight you tooth and nail. If it was, John, please forgive us. If it wasn't for John Ness, nobody else, we wouldn't be sitting in this room this morning. This was John Ness's dream to build this room. Let's go, folks. We understand you can't name the building. We can't name a firehouse. That's fine. I don't care about that. I want this room named in John Ness's memory. That's the end of the discussion.
Thank you for your comment. Next speaker, please.
Celia Puglisi, in Palm Coast since 1991. First of all,
Celia, bring it just a little bit closer, so
Yeah.
thank you.
in Palm Coast since 91, Celia Puglisi. First of all, I want to wish happy trails to our sitting still council and mayor here, and I have to appreciate they ran for office. The outcome was not what we would have liked, but anyway, I think especially Mayor Alfin might try to have learned from the experiences and be around us because in some of the issues you were positive. Anyway, also I appreciate to Mr. Gambaro for presenting himself and being appointed, though that was not what the residents really wanted, but that's okay, I appreciate that. Also, first of all, I am very concerned because the city, on the verge of having a new council, decided to come up with a saltwater canal survey. Why to spend that kind of money when there is not needed a survey? I have the documents here on which I bought my first saltwater canal home in 93, on which they were within the drainage system of the original ITT, this comprehensive land use plan. You cannot change those things. This is our entitlement too. We pay for our seawalls, we pay for boat docks, and these canals are publicly used, and they serve the drainage of the whole city. In 1996, the Palm Coast Service Corporation, which was what ruled us, they spent saltwater canal dredging $209,400, and out of our almost $900,000 budget that they collected from all of us in the ITT in the Palm Coast Service Corporation for drainage issues. Also, here I have, in 98, the canal served the whole city because to fight the 98 fires, they came with the helicopters, as is shown in this document, city newsletter, to pick up water to fight the fires. Also, in our 2016 flood protective info, the several stormwater retention areas have been installed through the city to draw stormwater from the adjacent city. And it talks about the existing canal system, another document that I'm going to give you, because we don't want to go to a good, excellent land development attorney to defend ourselves against this, and we are ready to go. Brent Spain is excellent defending us against these abuses. Here is what it says is on the City of Palm Coast Comprehensive Land Use Stormwater Study, 2016. What else? Here you have maintaining the stormwater drainage out of side roads right away, the canals. Another document. These documents are after we incorporated in December 96. One other thing I say, thank you for not naming this our community center for the past mayor, because we opposed it, and I want to know who ordered in this city the installation of the name that we saw there before we held the meeting here, and now they had to take those letters out, and I have the proof. I want that city administrator to be fired. That's all what I say. Thank you for the new.
Thank you for your comment. And did you want to leave those documents with the clerk, Celia?
Oh, yes, please.
Thank you. Okay, is there another speaker that would like to speak on an item that's not in the following agenda? Yes, sir.
Gary Kunis, C-section. I'm very concerned that the appointment of the committee member, the new one, was a plant, and it's based on the information I have here sent to me by a council member. The presence of Brigadier General would make Norris, and I won't use the word used, crap in his diaper. And if that was the reason to appoint the individual, it was wrong. Second item, the amendment, the way that was deliberately written to deceive us and not put all the correct information in there, those two lawyers should be disbarred permanently. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Next speaker, please. Yes, sir.
Cameron Orr, District 2. Over the past few months, you've heard from a number of us about the lack of shelter space for animals in our community. I want to thank the outgoing mayor and the outgoing council members for their support on finding solutions to this problem. I want to also congratulate the new incoming council members and mayor and hope we get the same level of support from them. We have a group now that we have adopted the name ARF, Animal Refuge of Flagler, where in the dictionary, refuge is defined as a condition of being safe or sheltered. We're a group of residents, working and retired, past business executives, veterans, past and present board of directors, shelter members and presidents, local nonprofit rescue directors. We are all currently volunteers of various animal welfare organizations throughout the city, the county, and the state. We are committed to assisting the city and the county in gathering factual data on what it might cost to establish a new municipal shelter and what it would cost to operate that. This past Friday, we were able to meet with Ms. Johnson and Mr. DiLorenzo to understand better the legislative delegation process. As a result of that meeting, our members this week are going to go off and visit and collect data from 12 municipal shelters, roughly the size of Flagler County. We're going to gather data on their overall size, the acreage, the square footage needed, the number of kennels they have, the size of the kennels, whether they have medical and veterinary facilities, the reporting of their dog officers, how many personnel it takes to manage and operate the organization, who was their builder, what was their cost, and what was their time to build. We'll use that data, bring that back to the city and the county in hopes of going forward with an ask of the legislative delegation this fall. We were able to brief the Flagler BOCC last night and make them aware of this initiative. And we do have a point of contact here in Palm Coast. We asked the county commissioners for a point of contact as well. Thus far, we haven't gotten a response. We hope to go forward with them to assure tight coordination going forward. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Is there another speaker that would like to comment at this time? Yes, sir. If there are others, please, you can queue up so we can get through this if you like. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My name is Doug Laidlaw. I live at 29 Brookside Lane. I'm here today to address something I read about the possibility of a lawsuit over the Burt-Harris Act for a project that's coming up. Well, I'm not here to speak to that project. Basically, it's my understanding that the applicant feels as though he's not getting something he was promised, but I don't know that it was ever promised by this agency. But I want to speak to the issue of the Burt-Harris Act and whether this is being used in the real intent of the law. I will say I have served on appointed agencies, particularly in St. Johns County, where we address growth the same way you folks are going to be doing here. And it's tough. But I don't think the Burt-Harris Act and the use of eminent domain applies to things such as this. That law was written to protect people that would lose their property as a result of roadways, interstates, or collector roads coming through. And the whole county benefits from those projects, road improvements and things. But for someone to come in here and say, you're taking my property rights, is just not true. Because whatever rights came with that property, when that applicant purchased that property, he can do right now. Doesn't even come in here. If it's 1 home per acre, go get your permits and build. Don't have to even come in here. But because they want to maximize their profits and increase their density, you're under no obligation to grant that. Not at all. So I would politely just call that a bunch of bovine excrement. Truthfully, I would fight that. It's just not the intent of the law. So, and Ms. Pontieri, I applaud your stance on these issues. And I welcome the new board, and I appreciate everything the outgoing board has done. But, you know, don't go for this threat of a lawsuit over that. It'll never fly. It's not the intentions. It's no different than me coming in here saying, well, I've got 10-yard 10-foot setbacks on my property, but I want a bigger house. I want 5-foot setbacks, and you got to give those to me, or you're taking my rights away. Same argument. That might oversimplify it, But thank you for your time.
Very good. Thank you for your comment. Is there another speaker that would like to make a public comment at this time? Seeing no one come, yes, ma'am.
My name is Olga Smirnov. I'd like to say thank you for your service, Guy, and I'd like to congratulate the new mayor and the council. I have an ongoing issue with the code enforcement. It's gone on for a year and a half, and I'd like to request the assistance from the new council. That's all.
Okay. Thank you very much for your comment. Anyone else? Seeing no one else come forward, I will close public comment now, and I'll defer to city manager for any responses, but I would say that the one comment made about is there something to be learned on every visit to the podium, I would say absolutely yes. I guess if you could sit here long enough and listen to the broad variety or spectrum of comments, you could learn an awful lot about our community and many other things. So I do appreciate that comment very, very much.
Sure, Mayor. Just to address some of the public comments, in regards to teaching kids swim lessons with the future legislation that was passed, that'll be a future policy decision, as there will be budget effects of swim lesson instructors, et cetera, by offering free classes. So we'll bring that to you during your budget process. In regards of renaming the community wing after former Mayor John Netz, we can give Mr. McDonald our application, and then it would go in accordance to that policy that was adopted by City Council. It was great to have a meeting with Mr. Orr on Friday, and his willingness to go out and visit all of these municipal shelters and collect the data on behalf of the city and the county. That's wonderful.
So just a question there, and I don't want to be out of turn, but somebody in the audience gave me a bobblehead that only shakes the head yes. I just want to know whether or not the sheriff is involved in those discussions.
I can include those in my ongoing conversations with the sheriff's office. Yes, sir. And then we are working through the Burt Harris claim that was mentioned. Our law firm is working through that, as well as the Florida League of Cities. And we are aware of the code enforcement issue by Mrs. Smirnoff. And then finally, to Ms. Puglisi about the Saltwater Canal Survey. City Council, if you recall, that was part of your direction for the Saltwater Canal Strategic Action Plan priority. You directed staff to conduct that survey. It is at no cost. We are using our current technology to facilitate that study, and the results will be presented to the new council once the survey's been completed.
So just as important, could you just very, very briefly describe the purpose of the study? That seems to be a little bit unclear. The reason for having the survey is?
Because you have adopted a strategic action plan priority to look into maintaining and dredging the saltwater canals.
Maintenance for the future?
Correct.
Okay, I just want to get that out. Very good. Okay, anyone else? No, good, okay. Attorney, good? All right, with that, we'll move to agenda letter E, which is minutes of the City Council, November 12th, 2024. It was a business meeting. I would ask for a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll make that motion.
Vice Mayor Danko has made a motion to approve, and Councilman Gambaro has seconded the motion. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Are there any opposed?
The motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. We now move to item F2, which is the resolution regarding the results of the general election. And Councilor, I would ask you to please read that into the record for us formally.
Certainly. Resolution 2024-XX approving the final 2024 general election results.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve the results.
Okay, I have a motion from Councilman Gambaro to approve the election results. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Sorry, I have a question. Second.
All right, so I have a second from Vice Mayor Danko. Now, discussion.
Yes, sorry. I saw on the statistics page, the registered voters total reads 190,000, and that's more people than we have in the county. So I just wanted to get some clarification on that, please.
Sure. I mean, I would have to ask the Supervisor of Elections office. They prepared the report and sent it to us. So I can't speak to the numbers in that report. I would just have to ask them to verify that.
Okay. It's obviously really important the numbers are correct. I don't want to stop certification of the election results, obviously, but is it possible to make sure that we do go back and correct the record if this figure is not correct?
Absolutely.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
That satisfies, yeah, it's a big point.
It's 50,000 more
No,
residents than we have in the
it's-
county.
It's huge.
Is there any legal conflict in us proceeding forward with those numbers being wrong with
you know, it's
all
a-
of the controversy that we have seen with
It's
numbers?
a fair question.
I think it's a very fair question. I would say not at this time. If something comes up, as Ms. Pontieri said, that's something we can.
All right, and
So I'll clarify for the minutes, the addition of, like, the actual votes that came in matched the results that were published previously, but that one number of the total registered voters does not seem correct.
Unless we're counting dead people. I mean,
and please, no, please.
just, this
I
has been
know,
a
I know,
serious
I know.
issue in this country, and and if- I want if- to make sure we proceed
No, I wanna
properly
set
on
the
this.
record
Ms.
correctly.
Pontieri brings up a good point, but also that doesn't mean that there are residents that can vote in this county that do not live here as military members that are overseas or members that don't live in the county.
Counselor, would you advise that we alter the motion in any way to reflect our concern or leave it as is?
I would recommend leaving it as is. I don't see any issues at this time.
Okay, everybody's good with that based on
I'm
the
just,
discussion?
if this comes back as an issue.
I know.
Can it be fixed? I mean.
Yes.
You know.
Well, it'll be up to.
What are
the
those
next
numbers
council.
again?
190.
190.
Is that the number you said?
It says 190,000 registered voters total.
So we don't have that many people serving overseas from
No.
Flagler
No,
County,
absolutely.
unfortunately.
So there's an error, obviously.
Okay, let's
But
hope we get it corrected.
Yeah, so obviously, we all agree that it needs to be corrected, and we're making an assumption that it will be corrected and go on the record that way.
And just for the record, too, pursuant to our procedures, either myself or Councilman Gambaro can make a motion to
Correct.
take back the approval and then reapprove based on the correct numbers.
And you'll both
So,
be here,
yeah,
so
it's not-
procedurally, you'll be in good shape for that.
It's an issue, non-issue that I wanted to bring up and make sure we get the numbers correct.
I'm glad you did, okay.
Yeah.
So as is our process and procedure, I would open up this item for public comment. Is there anyone in the public that would like to comment on this specific agenda item at this time? Don't blame you. Okay, with that, then we'll move forward, and I'll call the vote. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Are there any opposed?
The motion passes unanimously.
Clerk has the count. Very good. All right, we now move to agenda item G and number 3, which I think many of you have come specifically for today, but please, I'm glad you're here for the other parts of the meeting as well. So we'll begin with the oath of office for mayor, and I just have a comment to make, if I can, just in advance of our formal swearing in. And as I look across the council room this morning, you know that this is my last view from this perspective. I'd like to address you this final time as your mayor to share one parting consideration for you to see in your own mind's eye. At this very point, Palm Coast is at an especially rare moment in time. 3 time periods have come together here in 2024. Ironically, on both the 50th anniversary of ITT's creation of our city and the 25th anniversary of our incorporation. At this juncture, our community has been honoring the fond memories of our past. We are living for today in the realities of our present, and we are anticipating tomorrow by planning for our future. It is my genuine belief that focusing on this interweaving of these 3 time periods will safeguard Palm Coast's strength, innovation, and solvency. Multiple priorities, technologies, and expansions have taken over our lives since our city's past, each affecting our present and future goals and responsibilities, as they've amplified the ways we make decisions. It is my hope that our council and community will be unified when considering these elements to invest in a city where we will always be proud to call home. My heart has always told me that Palm Coast's population will continue to grow because we've been gifted with the natural elements of beauty, climate, and oceanfront locations. So as a new future begins today with our new mayor, Mr. Mike Norris, I am honored to hand over the gavel so we can begin the next journey that evolved together with ingenuity and pride. I thank you all. I wish you all good luck, and God bless.
You can please raise your right hand and repeat after me, inserting your name as noted.
I, Michael Edward Norris,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support, protect, and defend,
that I will, say again,
that I will support, protect, and defend
that I will support, protect, and defend
the Constitution and government
the Constitution and the government
of the United States
of the United States
and of the state of Florida,
and of the state of Florida,
that I am duly qualified
that I am duly qualified
to hold office
to hold office
under the Constitution of the state,
under the Constitution of the state,
and that I will well and faithfully
and that I will well and faithfully
perform the duties of mayor
perform the duties of mayor
of the city of Palm Coast,
of the city of Palm Coast,
on which I am now about to enter.
on which I am about to enter.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Do I good?
Please raise your right hand and repeat after me, inserting your name.
I, Ty Miller,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support, protect, and defend
that I will support, protect, and defend
the Constitution and government
the Constitution and government
of the United States
of the United States
and of the state of Florida,
and of the state of Florida,
that I am duly qualified
that I am duly qualified
to hold office
to hold office
under the Constitution of the state,
under the Constitution of the state,
and that I will well and faithfully perform
and that I will well and faithfully perform
the duties of council member
the duties of council member
of the city of Palm Coast,
of the city of Palm Coast,
on which I am now about to enter.
of which I am now about to enter.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Please raise your right hand and repeat after me, inserting your name. I
Ray Stevens,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support, protect, and defend
support, protect, and defend
the Constitution and government
the Constitution and government
of the United States
of the United States
and the state of Florida,
and the state of Florida,
that I am duly qualified
and I am duly qualified
to hold office
to hold office
under the Constitution of the state,
under the Constitution of the state,
and that I will well and faithfully perform
and I will well and faithfully perform
the duties of council member
the duties of council member
of the city of Palm Coast,
of the city of Palm Coast,
on which I am now about to enter.
of which I am now about to enter.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
One more.
Thank you, man. We can put that away. Oh, thank you. Teresa, is this automatically on? It's already on? I don't have to touch anything?
Correct.
Can everyone hear me? I'd like to say first, thanks for all the support within the community, and especially my wife, Tracy, and my family. Some of you may know we've been going through a very trying time right now, and I hope that you can pray for us and support us as much as possible through our little bit of pain we're going through right now. This gavel is from Tracy's grandfather, my wife Tracy's grandfather. He was a mayor in South Florida for 20 years, and we were so lucky and blessed that Chrissy hung on to it, and this is the gavel I'll be using while I'm up here. So, so with that being said, let's continue with this session. I would like some latitude from the council to allow public comments by the people that are here to support myself and the other two council members. Does anyone, can I get your consent for that, the remaining members? Okay, so if anyone has public comments, Mark, please step up.
My name is Mark Schreiber. Connie and I live at 3 Creekside Drive, Palm Coast. I'm a retired Navy chaplain, 25 years of service to God and country. And I'd like to invite you to join with me in a brief word of prayer. Heavenly Father, the true nature of good government in a free society does not tyrannize the opinions of a few in positions of power over those who have dissenting views, but rather seeks out and finds the limits of reasonable, good, just, and fair laws for the greatest benefit to the entire body politic. We are all prone to believe that our vision alone is the right vision for all, without honestly weighing opposing points of view. Therefore, dear Lord, guide our newly elected mayor, Mike Norris, and his council to elevate the principle of responsible self-governance for the good citizens of Palm Coast, not with grandiose, foggy plans lying in the dimly lit distant future, but rather to see all the good that can be done right now, right here, as our God-given governing duty for the benefit and blessing to all the good citizens of Palm Coast. In the name of thy dear Son, Christ Jesus, I pray. Amen. Amen. And thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Mark.
Good morning. My name is Chantal Proniger, and I live in Section Z. And today is obviously a day to celebrate, and I want to welcome the new members of this council, but also seize the opportunity to remind you that we voted you in office so you could work for us. In that same spirit, I want to challenge you to revisit a few things decided way back, and you had no input on what was decided so long ago. But please revisit, first of all, the 3 minutes allowance to voice our opinions is not enough. If you're more preoccupied with reminding us, and I mean, some of you are new, so it's just, if you're more preoccupied with reminding us our time is over than listening to what we're saying, that means we're not being heard. When we come with questions, we expect you to give us answers. When we buy a property in Palm Coast, we find ourselves under a load of city regulations, so much that people call it a homeowner association, the city homeowner association. So that makes some, and the realtors obviously very happy, but unfortunately frustrates a lot of homeowners. Those, for example, who use a company pickup with a logo can't park it on their own driveway. Those who have fenced their backyard are given fines either if they parked in their fenced backyard, their work trailer, their camper, or RV. Those who temporarily have one of their cars on their own lawns can get a city fine. I'm not talking about trash all over the yards or hoarding around their properties, but rather being free to use their own land as they see fit. Please revisit those city regulations so people can live freely on their own properties. Last but not the least, development has and is continuing to grow out of control in the city, and the infrastructure cannot support the actual residents, and even less those who come from the constructions in progress. Teresa Ponteri has brought to the table an attempt to bring a building moratorium as to give a chance to fix the infrastructure. And shockingly, as far as I'm aware, nobody had the gut to second her. Please work on the moratorium as on the highest priority. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
My name is Celia Puglisi, living in Palm Coast since 1991, and I have seen a lot, as you may imagine. Welcome, first of all, to our new city councilman and mayor, and I hope, like the prior resident mentioned, you, when lobbying or when voting, you will always keep the residents' quality of life and problems in mind. You have a full plate of issues still standing to resolve. The flooding of those homes for owners to no fault of their own, just because they were ignored the ordinance 24156 E, D, and E, and so that has to be resolved for these people. And houses should not be allowed to be built higher than the adjacent lots on those infill lots or parcels that are still being backfilled. Also, we need to resolve the issue of Florida Park Drive because it's a hazard only for the people that leaves Florida Park Drive front. We have spent already with the last administration $163,000 into traffic calming islands that now it was put in the waste basket, $163,000 of our money. We need also to resolve why is this rezoning allowed all the time against the original plan from ITT and the original city plan for plan development, etc. These minor needed saltwater canal dredging, nothing in between $28 to $58 million that they want to dump on the canal front owners only when the canals are serving the drainage system of the whole city. And also, I am going to remind our 1,078 members that were using our pool that is under the district district that they were denied the use of the pool. Elderly, handicapped users, children, I mean, these kids then will be hanging in the street. We have long, hot summers, and the city needs to talk with the school board, and I'm going to talk to Mr. recently appointed Mr. Barr, which I asked our governor in writing to appoint him. We need a school board and working with the city for the residents. We need to face first. We don't ask for so much money when we ask for the little things we need. No, we are said no to this, we are said no to that, and millions go for things that are geared to benefit developments, like in South Elkins Road now. So we need to use our utility fees reserves for our utilities, not to benefit other, requests. So please take us first in your mind when you vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Celia.
Good morning.
Morning.
Rich Cooper with the Flagler Palm Coast Chamber of Commerce. I am the co-chair of the Government Affairs Committee. I wanted to extend an invitation to work with all of you over the next year, or years, as it may be. I know there could be some differences between what we all want here, but I do believe we all agree that we live in paradise. We're very fortunate for that. And I think there's a whole lot more common ground between what we're looking for than there are differences. I would extend an invitation to meet with any of you over the next few weeks or months to find out how we can work together and how we all can serve this community to better and more effectively. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cooper.
Yes, Cameron Orr spoke earlier about animal issues, animal sheltering issues in the county. Unfortunately, only Ms. Pontieri, Ms. Johnson, Mr. DiLorenzo have had benefit over the last several months as we talked about this issue. It's a serious issue in this county, in this city. We have only one private shelter. It was built 22 years ago for the size of the city and the county then. We did have a joint meeting with the county and Palm Coast back in August where that shelter was asked to come in. By their own admission, they have no plans, no money, and no land in which to increase the size of that shelter. That's been a major thrust for our ask to address having a municipal shelter. Flagler County is one of only 13 of the 67 counties in Florida that does not have such a facility. So again, that's kind of the thrust of our group. We have lots of statistics. We've been working with the University of Florida Veterinary School. And I'd like to, if need be, any of the new council members, Mr. Mayor, any of those things, if we can provide that data and those statistics to you in support of this going forward, we'd be happy to do so. Now that you're all members of the council and the city, Mr. Mayor, you'll have city email addresses. I'll make sure you have our contact information as well, should you have any questions going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Good morning, Kathy Saris of Palm Coast. I want to welcome the new members of the commission and welcome back the members that were here last election or currently now. As you can see, there's a lot of people with red shirts on, and I'm here to talk about our newly named group. It's not new, it's just newly named, of ARF, the Animal Refuge of Flagler. And I just want to add to Cam that was just here that we really do need a shelter besides the privately owned one that is a 501c3. Like he said, they have no intentions of expanding or improving, but they do have $800,000 in an investment fund. And as far as I understand, a 501c3 is to give back into that. It's a nonprofit, but it seems like this one is looks like it's for profit. The animals are not treated humanely. I was a volunteer, one of the 3 that got terminated for speaking out for them euthanizing Guapo, a beautiful dog, but not only was he just euthanized, it was outside on July 8th when the swarm of gnats were rampant, and all they did in the alcove where they keep the freezers, hung up a sheet, and other volunteers were walking the dogs back there. So because we spoke out, 3 of us were terminated. I never heard of terminating people because, first of all, euthanasias are to be done in a medical setting. But anyway, we do need a shelter desperately. Our population is growing, and so is ARF. So we're going to keep coming, and we're just going to keep asking, and we're here to help. If you have any questions, we want to help you with this. We'll provide any information. We'll do all the legwork. We'll save monies that you don't have to assign anyone to this project. And I know that Mr. Stevens had put on your resume you were an animal lover, so you got my vote. And I know, Mr. Nars, you have animals, so you also got my vote. Ty, I didn't see that on your resume, but you look like an animal lover. So I just want to continue to thank you for ongoing with our dreams. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Mark Stansel, Seminole Woods. Congratulations to all the new council members and mayor. The last election, the publics in Palm Coast really spoke out because they were on change. So, and you, Mr. Norris and Mr. Stevens, I know you particularly, you're big on the infrastructure and helping rebuild this city. Okay, and that's important, and people wanted that, and they didn't want, they wanted to manage the development of the city better. And your platforms resonated with those people, and that's why you're all elected. We have other issues, like the code enforcement system. It needs to be overhauled. People are concerned about that. And I think y'all take care of that. One thing, when I had the soldiers that worked for me, you know, we had a mission, we'd say, make it happen. That's my challenge to you all. Make it happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
Doug Laidlaw, 29 Brookside Lane. This is my first time in the chambers, and thank you for allowing me to address you twice today. I want to speak a little bit to development, and as particularly to Ms. Ponteri's proposal of a moratorium. We know you're not going to stop growth. It's impossible. But there are some tools that I think could be looked at and used in the right manner, such as concurrency. You know, concurrency in these, what I know about it, the elements are like school facilities, capacity, road transportation, and water and sewer. And you don't pick and choose one of those. You got to meet all 3 of them. They never meet the schools, but that's another question. That's for the school board, because the state legislature is not proactive with schools. They're reactive. They never build until the overcrowding is already there. But as far as our water and sewer, it's a no-brainer we don't have that capacity. We're under the mandate to build it. So how in the world can someone want to come in here and add all these homes when we don't even have it? I don't have the answer to this. Impact fees probably won't cover it. I can tell you growth does not pay for itself. I don't care what they say. That's why we're faced with an increase in our sewer rates because of this. And road capacity, that's becoming another issue. And I just hope that, I don't want to sound critical of anyone up there, but I sure hope, Ms. Ponteri, that you get a little more support with your positions with the new makeup of this agency. And I feel like you will. You know, there's a county issue coming a lot of people don't know about, but I can tell you, I knew about this in the mid-2000s. again, it's a county issue, but it's going to affect all of us. They're wanting to build a project that crosses St. Johns County into Flagler County. And I can tell you, a major politician owns a lot of that property. I won't mention the name, but it'll probably happen. Be like what happened with Nocatee up in Jacksonville. Then you get your urban sprawl. Then you find out their home insurance rates are more than their property taxes because they're too far from a fire station. Then they jump up and down and holler about that. Then we got to build fire stations. It doesn't work. Again, thank you for your time. Welcome all the new people, but please take a hard look at what we're faced with, particularly how it's going to affect our pockets. I don't want to pay for these developers and what they do. So thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Good morning, Anna Maria Long, Flagler Home Builders Association and resident since 1990. I just want to welcome you all. I want to thank you all for the conversations that we've had over your campaigns, and I look forward to working with each of you throughout your terms. And we're partners in this. We're all here for the same collective reason, to improve Palm Coast. We all live here together. The industry that I represent is a large part of our economy, and we'll do this all together. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Long.
Hi there. My name is Kelly Cosentino. I'm the Executive Director for Flagler County Association for Responsible Development. So I look forward to working with you all in the future. Congratulations. I represent engineers, environmentalists, land use attorneys. So we look forward to working with you today. Thanks.
Thank you, ma'am. Could you get your contact information to me, please?
Yes, I will.
Thank you.
Good morning, new council. Cornelia Downing Manfrey. I welcome all of you. Congratulations, Mayor Norris. I just wanted to address you as the start of the new council and think about a few things that we should have on the agenda right away. Obviously, we're looking for a new city manager, somebody who's well-trained and financially capable to be able to run a $421 million budget. Reviewing the budget needs to make sure that we're covering infrastructure and the other needs that are coming up through the community. Preserving land for in the future development with buffering as ITT originally planned, so that when there is new development, that it's not staggering with all of the front trees being taken down. I'd also really like to hear that the city can welcome new businesses. I welcome 5 new businesses that we've just placed at 24 Hargrove. NetSource out of Connecticut, their cable cell tower development company. Cool Air, a new air conditioning firm. HW Ventilation North America. This is a new company out of Milan, Italy, and they do fan and large components for infrastructures and equipment. High-end car restoration, Ryan Industries, which is a new group, a new veteran female that has started this company and is delivering maternity needs throughout the country for our veterans, female veterans. And lastly, CTI Underground out of Pennsylvania, and they do a lot of underground work throughout the state and in southeast United States. It'd be wonderful for the city to be able to welcome new companies when they come to town. So working together and working stronger, I offer my services as a commercial and job industrial person. I'd love to talk to each of you individually of your thoughts about the growth of Palm Coast and how we can collaborate. Okay, thank you, welcome.
Thank you, Ms. Manfrey. What you got, Paul?
Greetings, everyone. I just want to congratulate all the newly elected officials. Mayor Norris, I think you're going to be a breath of fresh air for this city. Congratulate Mr. Stevens and Mr. Miller. And I'm going to be praying for all of you, and I'd just like to ask all of you that before you come to your sessions, that you also pray and ask God for wisdom godly wisdom when you're making your decisions, because everyone up here has taken an oath on the Bible and an oath to God, and that's a covenant with God, and that's a serious thing. So I just like to ask all of you to keep that in mind, and I congratulate the newcomers, and God bless you all.
Thank you, Paul.
Good morning. Welcome to you all. One of my certifications is in total quality management, which is the Kaizen principle. And I just want to share with you some advice. The one thing that was lacking with the prior leadership was listening. The customer may not always be right, and in this instance, we are your customers, we are your consumers, we are your community. And you're all sitting up there because we voted you in. So for all of us, we may not be right as we come up to the podium, but as we come here for all of the meetings, we are invested in you and we are invested in this community. So we just want to be heard. And we are hoping that whatever advice we give you here at the podium, we just want to know that we have the best interest in you and we're invested in you. And so we just want to know that we're heard. And that's really all we're asking of you. And that's really my advice to you. And so we wish you well, and we're hoping that you do the best job for us. And we're just hoping that it's the best future for Palm Coast. And thank you all for taking this opportunity. We know it's a sacrifice for you. We know that the agendas are sometimes 500 and some odd pages, and that you only invest Tuesday nights and sometimes all day Tuesdays, but there's a lot of off hours that you invest and that we don't even know about. So good luck to you, and thank you so much for taking on the job of serving Palm Coast as you're doing. Many thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Donna.
Bye.
Good morning, Ed Fuller. Honorable Mike Norris, Honorable Teresa Pontieri, Honorable Ty Miller, Honorable Charles Gambaro, and Honorable Ray Stevens. Congratulations. Thank you very much. I want to congratulate your families, by the way, in this campaign that you all went through. I know it was very difficult, and the support that they gave you certainly helped you be where you are today. And I want to thank them for being the stalwarts that they are. I do want to wish everyone on here success and leadership, and a couple of things that you certainly don't need my advice, but I would offer this. Civility, respect, leadership, and fairness goes a long way. And you guys and gals set the tone. Thank you for running. Thank you for taking on this mantle. This is a wonderful city. I know you'll do your very best, and you certainly have our prayers. Mayor, you certainly asked for them, but you certainly have them. We're only going to succeed as long as you all do. So you certainly have our prayers. God bless you and good luck. Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you, Mr. Fuller.
Morning, Council. Dennis McDonald. Congratulations, Mr. Mayor. Congratulations, Councilman Stevens, and congratulations, Councilman Miller. The reason I came to the swearing in this morning is not only to see you gentlemen take your seats and fulfill a very hard-fought fight, but I wanted to congratulate the voters and thank the voters for electing you, because it seems to me that we're very much heading in the right direction, and we're doing the right thing for the voters of this town, and this city is turning in another direction at this point. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to just dial back to August of this year, when I sat in this very room and saw a violation of our city charter, hands down. The attorney said so. Okay, what happened? Kathy Hyder retired, called it quits, whatever you want to make of it. Okay, she had 26 months and a number of days. I believe it was 10 days left. There are 9 days left to qualify for the election. Okay, you can all read our city charter. It is the founding document that has been approved by referendum by the voters of this town. And per the state of Florida, it is how you govern this city, okay? It was violated by the former city council. There was no reason for me. I put in a complaint to the clerk. I put it in writing for myself, Celia, and Steve, and some other people. A couple of you were in the room when it all happened. Okay? We violated our own city charter. We chose to go around it, okay, and appoint somebody for a 26-month term, which is contrary to our city charter. If you listen to the people in this city, you will find that they are not in agreement with that. And I'm sure if you ask Celia, she'll verify that. And so will Steve. We have to do something about this. You can't move forward with a city council, okay, that is living with a false move made by 3 guys that were voted out by the voters in August, okay? They chose somebody to sit in a seat for 26 months, okay, that shouldn't be there. We're supposed to elect the replacement for Kathy Hyder per our charter, okay? I would like you to take that up on an immediate basis, and let's have a council that is voted in by all the voters. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McDonald.
Good morning. I'm Candy. I'm from the P section. I just want to say I see hope for our future up here today. I know, Teresa, you've been trying so hard to help us with the infrastructure issues and all the stuff that we've been having. Ray, you've been interested. Mr. Gambaro, you've been interested. Mr. Norris, you have infrastructure as part of your military history. So I just want to make sure that we stay on the track we're on. You have a mandate. You got a mandate from all of us. Stop changing the zoning, focus on the infrastructure, and listen to the people. It's really that simple. You earned it, and you earned it. And Teresa for vice mayor, please.
Thank you, Ms. Stevens. What you got, Gary?
Gary Kunis, C-Section. Welcome new members. Many of us worked hard to see that you 3 got there. Okay, you got your work cut out. 3 particular departments that need total revamping: code inspection, electrical inspection, and building inspection. And you and I had discussions why that is. All right. If you need help pulling up those railroad tracks in front of the pork train, I'm available. I got a brand new big crowbar. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary.
Good morning, Jeremy Davis, P section. Congratulations, Mike. We've had some discussions. You've been to my shop, so I know you got a lot of challenges ahead of you. I'm not here to belittle you or belittle any of you. All I want is actions. You've said a lot of words. I want to see those actions. I want to see accountability. I actually prepared something, so. We've all heard the phrase, actions speak louder than words, but what does it truly mean? It means that words alone are empty, hollow promises without substance. It's the deeds we do, the efforts we make, and the choices we take that reveal our true character. Words can be cheap, but actions require commitment, courage, and dedication. Anyone can claim to care, to support, or to believe, but it's those who put their words into practice who genuinely make a difference. Think about it. A politician can promise change, but it's their policies and decisions that shape reality. A friend can say they're there for you, but it's their presence in times of need that proves loyalty. An entrepreneur can boast about innovation, but it's their products and service that transform lives. Actions demonstrate integrity, responsibility, and sincerity. They bridge the gap between intention and reality. When words and actions align, trust grows, respect deepens, and relationships flourish. So let's not just speak, let's act. Let's not just promise, let's deliver. Let's show the world what we're made of, not just through our words, but through our deeds. Remember, Actions speak louder than words. Let's make our words echo with substance and our action resonate with purpose. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. Anyone else? With that, no one coming forward, we'll close public comments. We're going to move on to agenda item H, organizational items. And our first thing we have to do is appoint a vice mayor for the city. I would open it to council, I guess, if anyone wants to make a motion who they might want in that position. I would prefer it not be me. This is something I've said along the campaign trail. I don't want to be the person making the final decision. I will, but I shouldn't have to. The city council should come to a consensus, and my vote should just be a foregone conclusion. So, and that's the way I want to look at it, and that's the way I want to approach things. So if anyone would like to make a motion to, for the vice mayor, I welcome it.
Nominate Councilwoman Pontieri.
Mr. Stevens has made a...
Mr. Stevens, speak a little closer to the mic.
Mr. Stevens has made a motion to appoint Ms. Pontieri as the vice mayor. Can I get a second? Anyone second that motion?
I'll second the motion.
If you didn't do it, Teresa, I was going to. So we have a second discussion. Would anyone like to discuss the matter? You got anything? You're good. So, Counselor, we'll go with calling the vote.
You'd go to public comment first.
I'm sorry. Public comment. Anyone have public comment concerning the vice mayor position? Come on up, Ed. What you got?
Gentlemen, on the campaign trail, you weren't shy. So when you make a motion, it's all right. You can do it. Congratulations, Vice Mayor. You're steadfast.
Not yet. We got to vote.
Oh. Okay. I hope that's not an ethics violation here. But let's put it this way. Ms. Pontieri certainly has demonstrated her willingness, her steadfastness, her patience, and her civility in a lot of difficult situations. And we're all going to need to work together. She certainly has the experience, but she does a lot of collaboration, cooperation, and communication. That's the key. That's the key for you all going forward. And I certainly appreciate if you accept, and if you do get voted on, that you do accept the vice mayor thing. I know you nominated, but that's good. But I certainly wish you the best, and I'll certainly pray for you and everyone again. You're certainly in our prayers. Thank you. God bless you.
Thank you, Mr. Fuller. Come on up here, 1991.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Celia Puglisi, 1991, here. Okay, congratulations to Teresa. She has done a wonderful work for us. And we are honoring her and asking her to please accept this appointment. And we wish you the best. And I know that she is the one council member that have read over 600-page agenda. And this is the kind of agendas we have had lately, and I don't know, that should not be that way, because our council gets the agenda when we get it, I believe, on a Friday, and for Tuesday, they should have read all these pages, 500, 600, and over in agendas, to be able to make an educated vote, informed vote on the next Tuesday meeting, that for worse is at 9 a.m. most of the time. So this is one thing that we're looking forward to, that our council will change these 9 a.m. council meetings to 6 p.m. So most of our residents that don't come here in the morning because they have to work and attend those meetings and you can receive more of what we need. We don't come here to complain. What we do here, we come with needs for humane society, for one more shelter for our animals, needs for the floods, and all the things that we bring here are not frivolous things, are something that affect our qualities of lives, and we need to hear that. It's not that much expensive, some of the items that we ask here lately, but we haven't been heard. So congratulations, and I know they have to read all these hundreds of pages of agendas, and you know why? If we do the right work that we are asking you, we are not paying you quite enough for reading those agendas, going to all the meetings outside these meetings, meeting with other committees to keep us in the right track. We don't pay you enough, and I am the first one to say, because we pay the county over $60,000 for the same work, and we don't pay our city people enough for the work if it's done right, to show us that you will do the work that we voted you here to do, and we won't have no problem because we will save so much money that a deserving raise to all of you will be justified.
Thank you, ma'am.
Mark Stansel, Seminole Woods. Councilwoman Pontieri is always standing up for the people of the city. A year ago, we fought housing apartments over on Seminole Woods, looking down on our beautiful neighborhood, and she fought with us, and we won, and curbed that awful development. And she just constantly standing up for the people of Palm Coast. She does her homework, she does research, and we can trust her. And she's the most logical person for this job. Anybody else, forget it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Yes, ma'am.
Hi. I can speak personally about Teresa from some personal business I did with her. But with regards to the city, I believe that Teresa's strength, of course, is in the law. But Teresa goes beyond just her own district. She represents the city. She's gained respect for the citizens. But Teresa's skill set is just unremarkable. And what she knows about the city and what she doesn't know, she does a deep dive into what she may not know. But what she does and the respect she's gained from the citizens just is unremarkable. I think that Teresa has a personal skill set where she relates to every single citizen of this city, and I just believe that she's brought a sense of decorum to this entire panel, and she gains respect with represents every single member of this council, and I think you're going to get to know her, and you're going to get to love her, and I just believe that she brings such a level of honor to this entire room that we didn't have before. And I've been attending the meetings for over 7 years. So I've seen the turnover, and I believe that she's loved by the citizens of this entire city. And I believe it's an honor for us to have her sit up there. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Clapping said it all. Yes, for Teresa. She has all the questions, she investigates, she has the respect of the people. Yes, for her.
Thank you, ma'am.
Kathy Saris, so she was nominated, and somebody seconded it, I'll third it. And she is the most familiar with the city and county employees because she's the only one that's been there, and she's experienced. She is very knowledgeable. She always has beneficial input. She holds her own meetings with the city residents, and she listens. So as far as the others, I'm sure you're wonderful too, but she has the most experience, and not only, with the city, with the employees, with the departments, with the county. So as far as I see, her resume is the top one, and I think she should be the vice mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Jeannie Duarte, C-section. I personally probably am not going to gain any friends from this, but I oppose personally Pontieri being in that position. However, I don't make the vote on any of this. I've watched her flip-flop. I personally don't trust what I've seen. She is the one that wrote, with some help, the referendum that we opposed in the vote. I'm going to be keeping an eye on you, and I pray that you do what's best for our community and not what's best for the developers or yourself. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeannie.
Dennis McDonald. Boy, have we changed and turned the corner. Not too long ago, Ms. Pontieri could not even get a second to stop and put a moratorium on building in this town. But yet, you know, we've got votes for her today. I'm really pleased to see that. I just wanted to add one thing. Teresa's been tireless in her fight for all the voters in this city. And I just want to bring out one key point. She's done a lot of things, but the biggest thing of recent times is that we would have had an electric franchise tax if it wasn't for Teresa. Thank you, Teresa.
Thank you, Mr. McDonald. Any other public participation? So, council, we call the vote. I'll close public participation. We call the vote. Do you have to read anything, Ms. Cook?
No, I don't. It would just be up to you on if you'd like to.
Can we go by a roll call vote, please?
Absolutely. Councilmember Gambaro?
No.
Councilmember Miller?
No.
Councilmember Pontieri?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Mayor Norris?
Yes.
The motion passes 3-2.
So we're going to, we're okay? We're going to continue on with H5, council liaison appointments for FY 24-25. City manager, is there a brief description of each one of the liaison positions? Or, I know I told you which ones I wanted to be set aside for me. So how do you want to approach this?
Sure. Thank you, Mayor. The descriptions are located in your agenda packet. It is up to you, Mayor, how you'd like to proceed. We just need consensus through each one. Either myself or Ms. Cook can go through each committee and determine through consensus about who wants to be selected for that position.
Okay, when we had this discussion, me and Ms. Johnston, I specifically said I would like everyone to volunteer for the positions that they would like. I think I asked that there be a few reserved for me specifically that I'd like to be on. The primary one was the TPO, but are some of these have 2 seats, or which ones have 2 seats?
The ones that have 2 seats is the Flagler Schools Oversight Committee and the Joint Cities and County Workshop.
Okay. So with that being said, we can go down the list. Who would like to be on the Affordable Housing Advisory Committee? All right, guys, everybody's got to take positions.
Mayor, if I may, I heard you suggest yourself for TPO. Likewise, I would like to be on the Tourist Development Council, just based on my historical relationship with that council, with Amy, who is the head of our tourist development, and just based on my relationships with the county as well. So I know we're kind of going through the list here. It might be easier if each one of us kind of pipes up and says what they'd like to be a part of, but I would like to be a part of TDC.
Okay, so we got one down. Gentlemen?
Is TDC is a single position?
Mm-hmm. It's one single position.
I'd like Joint Cities and County Workshop as well as the Flagler Schools Oversight. I think that's 2 positions for each of those. I know Teresa's currently on those. I don't know if you still intend to be on those as well in the future.
I'm happy to see both of those.
Okay.
I don't know if I have the joint county one on here, on my list.
It's on the front page.
See that one?
No, I don't. Do you have the agenda? It's on the agenda.
Okay. Oh, my bad.
No, you
All
know
right.
what?
It's in your agenda summary.
Right here.
Okay. So that's.
That
Joint
one has
City
two.
County, 2. I would also like to be on that one.
May I speak?
Yeah, go ahead, Mr.
I'd like to
Stevens.
volunteer for the juvenile justice position.
And Mr. Stevens, I'm happy to cede that to you as well.
Pardon?
I'm on that currently, but I'm happy to cede that seat to
Oh,
you.
is it two or is it just?
Just one.
It's just
Oh,
one.
you're on it
But-
already.
But I'd be happy to let you take over for me.
I think with your background,
Mhm.
Ray, that'd be great for you.
All right, thank you.
What's next?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
yeah, I'd be happy to serve on the St. Johns River Water Management District,
St. Johns River.
and also, if possible, the Flagler Schools Oversight Committee, being a former school board member here in Flagler County.
That's true. All right, so we got the 2 covered for Flagler County School Oversight. River 2 to C, I'm going to be on that one.
I think, being that I would be TDC, I think the Cultural Council kind of goes hand in hand with that, so I'm happy to, if nobody else is interested in that, being on the Cultural Council.
Flagler County Cultural Council, Pontieri. Transportation, Flagler County Transportation Disadvantaged Local Coordinating Board. That's it's a long name one anyway. Any volunteers for that? Okay. How do we go about that, City Manager? Let's start at the top, I'm sorry. Affordable Housing Advisory Committee, I have been to one of those meetings, and I've found some valuable information, so I'll gladly put my name on that one. Family Life Center. Anyone, how do we decide? City Manager, how should we decide?
If there's nobody else that's willing to step up, based on my family law experience, I think that I could fit well there.
All right, Flagler County Disadvantaged Transportation Board, I guess I'll do that one. What else? Stewart, Marchman Act, SMA Healthcare. Anyone have any association with the healthcare industry? Or
So I had a question about this because it's noted in the packet that it has a conflict with council meetings. So I was wondering, what impact that is and how we would be able to serve on that board without being able to attend.
We would just have to let the board know that unfortunately, due to scheduling requirements, that we wouldn't be able to fulfill their seat. So,
Okay, so we would still be a member of the board but not be able to attend meetings or fulfill the seat?
right, because your meetings are set by city ordinance.
So have they been accommodating in the past?
I'm going back to, no, I don't believe we've filled that seat.
Okay, we'll leave that. We could come back to that one at a later date. If we get some more information, I appreciate it. Okay. So is that all of them? Are we good?
Yes, Mayor, do you mind if I read them back to you just to confirm?
No, sir. No, ma'am. No,
Okay.
sir. No, ma'am. Go right ahead.
Okay, so for the Affordable Housing Advisory Committee, I have Mayor Norris. For the Family Life Center, I have Vice Mayor Pontieri. For the Flagler County Cultural Council, I have Vice Mayor Pontieri. For the Flagler County Transportation Disadvantaged, I have Mayor Norris. For the Flagler Schools Oversight Committee, I have Mr. Miller and Mr. Gambaro. For the Florida Department of Juvenile Justice, I have Mr. Stevens. For the Joint Cities and County Workshop, I have Mr. Miller and Mayor Norris. For the River to Sea Transportation Planning Organization, or TPO, I have Mayor Norris. For the St. Johns River Water Management District, I have Mr. Gambaro. We're not filling the seat with the Stewart Marchman Act. And for the Tourism Development Council, I have Vice Mayor Pontieri.
And there's just one other thing I did want to bring up, Mayor. So we had the joint city and county meeting maybe about a month or two ago, and the Flagler Humane Society was brought up. I asked Amy from the dais, Amy who's part of that board, whether or not we could have a liaison for oversight. It's a non-voting member between the city and the county. They did grant that request. So I would ask that be permitted on our behalf to sit in on their board meetings just as an oversight. And I have spoken with Commissioner Pennington. She's willing to be an alternate in the case that if the city cannot send representation, the county through Ms. Pennington would be permitted to do so.
I have no issue with that. The whole Humane Society thing, it touches our heart a lot because some of you may know, we have 4 rescue cats in our house right now. We have one German Shepherd that we pretty much rescued him. He was in pretty bad shape. But we do need to work on getting another shelter. And I know the rumors had been out there about Sheriff Staley standing up an operation for that. And when I spoke with Sheriff Staley last Saturday night, it hadn't been something that had been brought to him that he acknowledged. But we do need to work, and if the Humane Society is not doing what it's supposed to be doing and mistreating animals, and it's supposed to be a no-kill shelter, correct? We need to work on that, and we can strive to stand up what we can. But I would like everyone to know that I'm not about growing government. I don't think we need to be growing our government at all, and I think we need to be reducing our staff numbers. So we're going to have to take those things into consideration. And right now, we are in a tight spot as far as funding is concerned. And our legislative priorities are going to be very pivotal this year, considering what happened last year and the year prior. But we're going to do what we can. You know, our hearts go out to those individuals that find it very offensive, and I do too. I can't see killing any God's creatures. So we're going to work, and I think we can do something about it. We have to come together as a community. There's a lot of smart people out there. A lot of people, like the gentleman said, they have all this information about facilities and how to stand them up, how to run them, the financing, the manning, and all that stuff. So we can work something out, and let's just keep moving forward with that.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Yeah, I was just going to say, agree completely with everything you're saying, as well as I'm happy to see you on that, given your history with that and knowledge of that issue. I think it's a very important cause. So, and I don't know if it's something that would be an ongoing position that we can add to this chart for the next council to take over, so that, you know, when we're gone, someone else is acting on that board as well.
Okay. I think we have enough voices in the community that we're going to make something happen. Let's get it done as soon as possible, and meeting the needs of the residents and the animals, and also considering our budgetary restrictions. Okay, so are we good with that, Assistant City Manager?
You just need a vote of approval, Marcus, yes?
One second. No, for everything, and like what Ms. Ponte brought up about being on that board, just a consensus from this dais, a vote is not really needed for this. Just as long as we have a consensus that, you know, everyone's in agreement, then that should be good enough.
So we have to vote to approve the list.
No, I don't believe so. It's just through consensus.
Just a consensus, Mr. Mayor, that everyone is in agreement pretty much that we're good.
Everyone's in agreement with those positions, okay. Some of these you have to be, you have to stay on top of them. Like I know for a fact, the Affordable Housing Advisory Committee, if you miss 2 meetings or so, you're off the board. Am I correct? Has anyone sat on those meetings before? Anyone in the audience? Okay. So if we're done with that, so we'll go to agenda item A, presentations. As are they here?
Yes, Mayor. Mr. Thomas from Strategic Government Resources is here to give you a presentation, and I believe each member of City Council had one-on-one sessions with Mr. Thomas in creating the City Manager brochure, and Ms. Fuller, Director of Human Resources, is here to assist or answer any questions council may have.
Okay, so while Mr. Thomas is getting his stuff set up, This is a presentation from the Strategic Government Resources, SGR City Manager Recruitment Brochure. Our first priority of this council is to hire a new city manager competent of leading an organization of our size and our population. So with that, Mr. Douglas, is it Douglas?
Mr. Thomas.
Mr. Thomas, I'm sorry, Mr. Thomas.
No problem, Mr.
Doug
Mayor,
and
that's
Thomas.
fine. I think
looking for
Renita is
the-
in the process of trying to get a PowerPoint loaded up. We can walk you through the
Oh,
process.
there it is. Got it. Thank you.
All right, super. Is there anything you needed to say first?
Yeah, good morning, Mayor, City Council. First of all, congratulations on your election. Welcome to the City of Palm Coast. As Ms. Johnston said, we have Doug Thomas here from Strategic Government Resources to talk about our city manager recruitment brochure.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Renita. Well, let me add, on behalf of Strategic Government Resources, my congratulations to all of you on your recent election. As someone who's been in local government for a long time, this is always an exciting part for your community in terms of the process you've just gone through and setting the course and direction for your community. As a preface, what I will tell you as someone who's been city manager for a long time and now a consultant for over 9 years.
Are you looking for a job? Let me tell you with a good eye.
Exactly. What I will tell you is the process you're about to embark upon, despite all the things that you've run on and want to accomplish, is clearly one of the most important things that you will do as a governing body. The appointment of your city manager and a council manager form of government such as Palm Coast has is really the individual that helps you individually and collectively try to achieve your goals, objectives, and running the day-to-day operation of a fairly complex, one of your speakers spent earlier, a $421 million organization, close to over 600 employees. This is a major organization that you're running, and you're hiring basically a chief administrative officer to help you run that process. And so in addition to doing all that, they're also working with all of you as an S&Z board of directors to accomplish your goals and objectives. So I will tell you that all the budgets, all the things that you'll do in your tenure during an elected official, this is a very, very important item, if not at the top of the list, very close to the top of the list in terms of things that you do. So I know we've been here before when the previous council was in place, but I thought it might be helpful to just kind of go through a process to reintroduce our firm and what we do and how we do that effort, and then wanted to spend a little bit of time talking about the brochure and making sure that we've captured your goals, objectives, and overall themes that you're trying to accomplish as you're looking for your next city manager. So with that, as a background, just as a reference, for those of you who may not be familiar with Strategic Government Resources, we've been around since 1999. The firm is based in Keller, Texas, the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex area, but we are a virtual company. I myself come from Lakeland, Florida, and we have offices all over the country, virtual offices all over the country. And we provide a variety of local government services, not just here in Florida, but elsewhere. I've given you a little bit of our background. We really do believe that we help inspire. Our culture is in helping communities be innovative and being creative and thinking in their out-of-the-box approaches to solving issues and challenges that local governments face. I've given you our core values. We abide by those. We try to ensure in our relationships with both our clients and with our candidates and all the other services we provide that we're involved in espousing those values. We live and breathe those efforts as well. And the other piece I want to emphasize, although we're here today to talk about the recruitment process, and we are one of the largest public sector executive recruitment firms in the country, we provide a variety of other services to local government. And I think that those are all outlined in the presentation slides that you have before you. But as a result of that, in terms of our strategic foresight, our training, our consulting operations, our own conferences and events, our servant leadership opportunities, our strategic planning and visioning groups sessions that we hold with elected bodies like yourselves, I think that makes us better recruiters because we're fully embedded in local government operations. Most of us, including myself and many of the folks that work with us, come from local governments. We understand that culture and that dynamic. I've certainly sat on the dais in a number of communities, representing communities and councils like yourself, so we kind of understand the kind of the culture and the DNA that comes with this type of operation. So that is a little bit of background. Next slide, I want to just kind of walk you through a reintroduction. I've had a chance to meet all of you. I know, unfortunately, Councilmember Miller and I, we had conflicts going back and forth in schedules, but we'll do a follow-up to get a chance to make a connection. Everybody's been fairly busy in terms of the post-election windows. But my background, when I come to you, is over 35 years of city management in Maryland, Michigan, and here in Florida. My most recent position was city manager in Lakeland, Florida, between Tampa and Orlando. Served in that capacity for about 12 years. And I actually hired SDR to do some work, and they ultimately recruited me to take an early retirement and join the firm on a full-time basis. So I divvy my time up between executive recruitment, a lot of council, strategic planning, council manager relations, servant leadership training with governing bodies, things of that nature. And the other piece of my time is largely at state and national conferences, talking about best management practices and trends and issues that are in play. So I come to you from an experience in working in local government, and then, as I said, when I've now been with SDR on a full-time basis for a little over 9 years, and so in that period have completed well over 300 recruitments on that side of the house during that period, not just here in Florida, but a variety of communities across the country as well. The next slide, I want to introduce you, someone who just recently has joined SDR, but a longtime friend and colleague of mine, Mike Simbor. I'm going to have Mike just introduce yourself. Mike just joined us. And as I say, I've known Mike for, he's well over 45 years probably. We both grew up a long time ago in the business up in Michigan. But I want to have Mike introduce himself so you get a chance to know, because he'll be shadowing me in this search so that you at least now know who he is. So, Mike. Yeah.
Good morning and congratulations to the new folks. You guys are in for a buckle your seatbelt. It'll be a good ride. I just retired 3 weeks ago, 39 years of local government management service. I've served in Michigan, Ohio, Florida, Fernandina Beach, and Palatka, and my last job was in Hardeeville, South Carolina, fastest growing city in South Carolina, so I'm really thrilled about that. But the three things I've always told the councils that I work for and the commissions, three most important jobs you guys have. Number 3, strategic planning, setting your goals and objectives and how you get there. Number 2, your budget, spending equals outcomes. And number 1, hiring your CEO, your CAO to help you realize your dreams for your community. And again, what you're going to find with our group is we're going to be there everywhere, every day, helping you, not the most qualified, but the person that best fits your needs. So we're looking forward to working with you, and again, congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
So just as a sense to understand the process we use forward, obviously there's a lot of different firms and everybody does this a little bit differently. I wanted to just kind of walk you through how we got to where we are and what's kind of coming and the steps that will be going forward. So it starts with us understanding your organization. So I've had a chance, we were in this unique dynamic with not knowing what the election results were, new commissioners being appointed, things of that nature. So what we try to do is meet with all of your staff and get a sense of kind of the challenges and issues and understanding the operational constraints and things that are happening in the departments. We've had a chance to meet with all, as I say, with the exception of Mr. Miller, and we'll have a chance to do a follow-up with him to make sure we understand his concepts and his desires for this position as well. But the bottom line is us understanding what your organization and your community are all about. So what we've tried to do is with that helps us, number one, present your community in the most ideal fashion possible, but it also helps us understand as we're interfacing with candidates to talk to them about kind of what's going on and things that aren't necessarily in the brochure. There's a lot of an art to this process of recruitment, and so really getting to know all of you and getting to know your staff and getting to know the culture and the DNA of this community is so important for us to do what we do. From there, we will use an extensive way to market your position through social media marketing and other types of techniques, and through our existing pool of candidates that have applied for other comparable type positions, things of that nature, and through a variety of other methods that we use. I try to encourage the opportunity to be promoted out there for candidates to be considering for this position. The other piece is, as I say, most of us in SDR come from local government, so we know the last thing we ever want to do is catch our elected bodies off guard or by surprise. And so as we go through a process from semifinal to candidate initial applications to triage to semifinalists to finalists and then ultimately your interview efforts, we will spend increasingly greater levels of detail understanding those candidates' background, criminal history, social media, media exposure, reference type works, things of that nature going forward. And you'll you'll receive some material from us at various stages of those searches so that you're aware of that. We know that your community is a very engaged community. By the time you have your finalist in play, they're all going to be Googling them and all sorts of things, so our Stage 2 media searches, by the time you're a finalist, will have all that done for you, and we'll identify any issues of potential controversies or concern. We'll know that well before you get to that point, but we know your community will be doing that, so we want to make sure you have that information first and foremost as we go further. So the other piece is that we also know that most bodies don't go through this process very often. Although you've had some transition in this position, many of you may not have been through a city manager type recruitment. And so as those of us who have been in the profession, who have been managers, but also have been through recruitments, and then also recognizing we're working for bodies that may not have this background, what we try to do is build a system that works for both sides, for you as elected officials to understand that effort, for your candidates who are going to be applying in terms of understanding the process and what to expect as we go further along the line. And as I said, we really serve as your advisor. At the end of the day, we're here to help provide you with our best insights and perspectives, but at the end of the day, you ultimately be the one selecting your semifinalists, you ultimately be the one selecting your finalist, and ultimately will be the one selecting your final candidate that you're going to proceed. We're here to give you any insights and perspectives from people that we understand this profession and anything we can do to the table. Sometimes an outside perspective, coupled with your knowledge, helps us help you make that process go well. And I want to land on the point that we've got skin in the game. We're not here just to find you a body or a city manager. We're here to help you find the right city manager that's right for you at this particular junction in Palm Coast's history. And so with that, we have a guarantee. So we have a 12-month guarantee that if someone's gone through an entire process, they're selected, and they leave for whatever reason, we come back and redo the search without a professional fee. So I love my clients, but I really don't like to have to come back and redo a search in that regard. Unfortunately, in close to 300, I've only done 2. Some of those were post-COVID windows that took place. So we got a pretty good batting average of working with our communities and helping you find the right candidate. And we're willing to be your partner and have skin in that game as well. Next slide. So just as a little bit of background, as I say, SGR is one of the larger public sector executive recruitment firms in the country. If you go through, they'll identify. But above and beyond that, we're going to recommend you advertise nationally for this type of position. And this is a relationship business. I mentioned that Mike and I have known each other from multiple states away earlier in both of our earlier careers in Michigan, but we've stayed in touch. And so, but what you will typically find, most of my searches when I do it, most of your candidates are going to come from the host state. In this case, Florida. That's not surprising. So one of the things that I've always done, I'm in the second chapter of my career, I give back to the profession because I believe in the concept of city management and good government. So these are some of the things that SGR and I personally are involved with to help understand kind of the marketplace here and understand the players that are likely to be considering this as a position, not just here, but then also we have contacts and references and folks all across the country. But we're very well known, we're very much engaged, regular speakers at Florida League of Cities, the FCCMA, and other types of programs and events. So we do have a pretty good understanding. There's not many city managers or assistant managers in the state that I don't personally know at first and foremost as well as part of that relationship. So next slide. So what we have prepared, and this has been a little bit of an abbreviated process because we've met with all your staff and then we've been waiting for the results of the election, and we had a quick deadline to get a brochure to you in recognizing today's meeting for your organizational effort. But the thought was, when I was here a little while back, if we could maybe slide in on this meeting and get some general direction and consensus on it, we could probably launch this position before we get hung up over the holidays. As you can imagine, once you get past Thanksgiving, you start rolling into the Christmas holidays, you just start losing time, and candidates will not necessarily be fully engaged because they're doing family items during that window as well. So the thought was, if we could get some direction from the board today, we might be in a position of launching this position this week and try to have most of the applications in before we hit the Christmas holiday. So that was kind of the timing, and I appreciate the flexibility to get you to this point. So the brochure you have before you has identified a lot of pictures and graphics and material we've gotten from the city, talks about the community because candidates may or may not know anything about Palm Coast, and so we want to present the community first and foremost, what kind of your life and lifestyle and the dynamics that are in play here. We'll certainly talk about the governance of the organization, how you're structured, how your elections occur, your budgets, the types of services you provide. We're certainly going to talk briefly about the nature of the position as a city manager. Many of those are unique. In some communities, you've got a fairly standard responsibility and task, if you will, for the manager, but some communities have different dynamics, so we like to outline that. And then from the conversations I've had with you and from staff and from my research on the community, I've identified a variety of challenges and opportunities. We'll talk a little bit about those here shortly, that I think are, in addition to running your day-to-day function of a local government, these are things that are pretty pressing issues in your community that your next manager is going to have to get their head and their heart and arms around. And so we'll try to give them an understanding of what those issues may be. And then also from the conversations with not only your staff, but you, we've gotten a sense of what you're looking for, the hard and the soft skills of the position. So we've tried to characterize those based upon, hopefully you'll see some themes that many of you have described. And I'm trying to sort out, obviously with 5 members of your governing body, you may have a little bit different themes, but hopefully you'll find some commonalities there that we've been able to capture. And then on top of that, we'll talk obviously about the education experience, compensation and benefits, and then a variety of resources. The goal here is this document will be the lens in which prospective candidates will evaluate, am I interested in this position? Do I have enough of the background, the skills of what you as a community have said are important and what you're desiring in this position? And whether or not I'm going to apply. So please recognize that it's not going to have everything, although this is a fairly lengthy brochure by our standards, but there was a lot going on here, as you all know, so we wanted to be candid with your community and candid with your candidates about what to expect in this position. And the goal here is for them to just get an understanding to say, all right, is there enough here that I'm interested, that I'm going to apply, then that gets us started getting into the applicant pool. So, next slide. So the point I just wanted to highlight, because my sense was, is in talking with you and talking with your community and kind of following your issues, and certainly been in a couple meetings now and hearing some of the challenges of your residents, I've identified these items as kind of what I would call challenges and opportunities that I think your next candidate is going to have to navigate in some way, shape, or form. And you, not surprising to any of you, you're in a growth mode. Florida is in a growth mode. When the economy's hot in Florida, everything happens. But growth in one community looks different than growth in a different community. It's not the same across the state and certainly across the country. And so kind of in that bucket of growth management items and infrastructure challenges and a variety of capital projects, I've flagged you have a new comprehensive plan. You've got a future land use map that's been transmitted. I understand there's some concerns and controversies about some of that. I don't know what that all looks like, but the bottom line, we want candidates to know that there is some vision that's charted out there. You're waiting for some comments. They're going to come back, and you're going to have to deal with that as well. So we flagged that as an item. I know from previous work with the city, you've had on your discussion points for a while your maintenance and operation complex, your MOC. You finally have gotten some property for that. I know you're doing some infrastructure site improvements along those lines, and then you've got a series of phase-in plans to integrate those different departments in public works and utility, stormwater utilities and engineering and those other functions that ultimately be coming into that area. I know you've got 2 new fire stations that are either in design or about to be constructed somewhere in that window. I know one's a replacement, but so those are new. And then there's a lot of conversation, both from staff and from what I heard from all of you, about roadway financing, maintenance, stormwater management. I heard your saltwater canal issue came up, all those sort of things. There's a lot of stuff out there dealing with infrastructure that your next manager is going to have to be able to help you and help your community and help your staff navigate. And then above and beyond that, in the growth infrastructure project management issues, you've got some constraints and challenges in your utility systems. You've got a variety of water and wastewater plants. You've got that expansion underway on one of those now. You've got some design work and some questions about expanding to meet your future growth and existing needs in the wastewater side. And I also know that that's got some challenges as it relates to how you're going to pay for that. Whether that's through rate increases, grants, programs, all those items are kind of on the plate, as well as a new kind of master utility planning that is anticipated to be taking place. So I kind of sensed all that those are all pretty significant issues in and of themselves that I felt it was important that candidates be aware of as well. When I was here last, and in my previous work with the city, I understand you as a design community is largely residential. I think 84%, somewhere in that area is your tax base as residential. I will tell you as a former city manager, that's a hard thing to capture how you pay for all that on residential without commercial and industrial growth as well. But you've also got a unique design that you've got some constraints. I think the biggest industrial plant you can have is around 50,000 square feet, I believe, as I heard from your staff. And so you've got some concerns about what does that look like in terms of employment opportunities and bringing growth and diversification of your economy here. I was here when you had your targeted study presentation, so I've gotten a chance to kind of see what that looks and feels like, but we think that that's an item that, whatever that looks like, is going to be something that your manager is also going to help you and help your community and help your staff navigate. So that whole question of financing and economic development is a pretty critical concern. Another major item, as I said, you got a lot on your plate. You're going to have a busy couple years ahead of you, without any doubt, is the whole concept of the Western expansion. I know that brings some controversy in terms of growth and what's that look like and who pays for what and all the negotiations that come with that. I know you've got some state dollars involved, but you're going to still have some local dynamics that you have to figure that out, what the planning and entitlements all look to be. I know it's part of a DRI. That's another big piece. And I heard from any number of you, wherever you may be on the pro-business, anti-business, growth, no growth dynamic, what I heard consistently is you're looking for somebody that understands economic development, and then number two is willing to be a fair negotiator to represent your interest and whatever that may look and feel like. And so that's another skill set that as you're building your economic development department and that process going forward, somebody that understands that world and can navigate that world and represent you as best as possible in those negotiations. Of no surprise to all of you, you have your longest tenured now vice mayor is in the second year of her first term, and all of you are brand new, relatively speaking. I know you've served a couple meetings now as an appointee. But the bottom line is unique to local government, unlike many boards or commissions that you may have served on in the past, is you don't get to pick who your colleagues are. Your citizens do that. And then you're expected to step into your role and all of a sudden continue to be a highly functioning operating government, and you're just starting to get a feel for how you're going to work and the norms and the dynamics. We do a lot of training with local government officials that come on for governance, but the bottom line is you're brand new today, and whatever that looked and felt like yesterday or earlier this morning is going to look and feel differently going forward, from today going forward, as you start to get to know each other and get to understand kind of the ebb and flow of governance. At the same time, you're going to have a manager that's stepping into this role who's going to learn this organization and learn this community, but also have to work with not an established group that's been around in your offices for a long time, and those norms haven't all been fully formalized, if you will. And so managers are often stepped into the role of helping you help each other and helping you find consensus on common ground and work as a team. And so that's another unique challenge that you face, and we felt it was important to address that. And last but not least, what we saw and heard, although you're a relatively young community by, you're not hundreds of years old by many of the communities we work with, but in your case, you still have been around for a while, and many of the employees that have transitioned from previous privately owned operations to now city operations are getting to the end of their tenure. I mentioned I speak a lot at state and national conferences, and literally there are 10,000 baby boomers hitting retirement age every single day, and that's going through 2030. So you've got what I describe as a pig in the python with these elder senior employees kind of working their way into retirement. And when you look at the Gen X, the millennials, and Gen Ys, there's not enough population group to fill all the slots of those exodus of those employees. So you, like many of our local governments, are facing an exodus of senior, talented, experienced, tenured employees. And how do you replace that knowledge base, and how do you size your organization appropriately going forward? So that's something we see you're not unique in that sense, but every community has a little different feel. But many of the communities I work with, literally a third of their employees can retire either now or within the next 5 years. So that's a pretty significant transition to embrace as well. So I want to stop there for a second before we kind of talk about some other things about what the steps in the process look like. And I want to make sure if I can go back to the previous slide, if you would, please. Have we captured the right things, or is there anything I've missed that you think are critical that we need to incorporate as kind of major challenges and issues to make sure we've captured those important items? So I'll turn it back over to you, Mayor, for any conversations and feedback you might have.
Anyone have any comments? Anyone?
I do. In the brochure, because I see here we have challenges and opportunities, and you're absolutely spot on to say future land use management, but that's not listed in the ideal candidate portion. So when I read the ideal candidate, and I understand we can't put absolutely everything in there, but this is a biggie. It is going to be incredibly important that I think we highlight the need for a city manager that has future land use management experience.
Okay. I'm sure I can weave that in somewhere in the ideal candidate
I mean,
section.
you kind of get there in
Yeah.
all of this, but it just, I think it needs to be highlighted.
That's fine. Certainly understood. Okay. Any other major issues or challenges that you felt that were needed to be highlighted that maybe we just didn't capture initially?
Any other comments?
Just one, and thanks for being here this morning and making this presentation. I think it's really important that we get moving on this right away. And I just, to reiterate, or just to share with the council, some of my guidance to our speaker this morning is that, I want to make sure we don't hire somebody that's been fired 5 times in the last 2 years or whatever the case may be. Somebody who's got a long, proven record of driving change in municipalities and have done well. To the Vice Mayor's point, land management and use is going to be key, is going to be the key to our success moving forward. So appreciate you bringing that up.
Excellent. Thank you. I will often comment about the life of a city manager is fraught with challenges and risks. As you can envision, a city manager can literally do everything and above and beyond what a given council may want. An election occurs, and the manager has found themselves out of favor for nothing they didn't do or didn't do properly. They just there's a change in direction in the area. So I often joke with my boards. I'll say managers are often hired and fired with enthusiasm, but rarely by the same boards. But that being the case, so recognize there will be managers that go through transitions. We'll help you define whether there's something that's criminal, immoral, unethical versus those that just went through a transition because of politics. And it's just kind of the nature of this business. But I do respect your comment, Commissioner, in terms of your concern about multiple terminations often is not a good sign.
Okay, thank you. And then, I'm also open to somebody that's coming from the corporate world or somebody that's had other senior, government experience, not just a career city manager.
Understood.
So I'm open to all sorts of suggestions, because we have to get this right.
Gotcha.
Thank you.
Yeah. We've tried to identify, here's what your job description says, but I know a number of you spoke about military background and other types of experience. We've left that open to say, if you're interested, go ahead and apply. We'll vet you all out through this process as well, recognizing that's the case. And I know I spoke to a number of you about, many times I've found base commanders that are interested in second parts of their career after they've retired from the military that have run, in essence, cities. And those we find as very strong candidates as well. But non-traditional candidates are certainly welcome as well. Absolutely.
And if I may add a little bit, I agree with that as well. Also, continuity. I think the city's experienced a lot of turnover, so looking for a candidate that's, here to stay, for a while. I understand that people that do their job well are in demand and therefore, may receive other opportunities if they're doing their job well for us. But looking for somebody that, we've experienced a lot of turnover recently, so looking for someone that's going to be here for, the foreseeable future in order to kind of steer the city in the right direction.
I appreciate you raising that, council member, as well, because I will tell you, nationally, the average tenure of a city manager is about 5 to 7 years. Obviously, some people stay a lot longer, and some people are more of a transition. For a community of this size, and I will tell you from my background as somebody in local government, you've had, well, since counting back to Jim Landon, previous manager, between Landon and where you are today and interims and full-time positions, you've had 5 managers in a relatively short period of time. That's a bit of a challenge. We're going to have to overcome that going forward. But in the same token, you definitely want some stability in this position. Your community, your organization, your staff, they've been through a lot. And so I appreciate the feedback, and we would encourage you to try to find stability in this position as well. Absolutely.
I also had a question. I know it's not on this slide, but you had mentioned the 12-month guarantee in terms of process. What do we see? What's the average process, or what should we expect in terms of that? Are we looking at 1 year to bring someone in, or?
No, I'll walk you through the timeline. It's about
Okay,
it's about a 3-month time from the time you say go. I've got a sample schedule, and once we get the authority to launch, I'll kind of walk you through that. But anticipate about 3 months from the time we say go to the time your final candidates are in town interviewing. And then it's a matter of who you hire, but typically, whether they're in transition or whether they're close or whether they're moving from across the country, we have to factor somewhere between 30 to 60 to 75 days normally after you've accepted an offer and you have signed the deal, so to speak. So you're about 5+ months out from where you are today before that person is likely to be physically in office doing the work, give or take I don't know who you're going to hire, so I don't know what those dynamics are. Yeah. But I'll walk you through a schedule here.
Thank you. Yep.
Okay.
That's all I have.
Any more questions?
Any more on on the brochure, as I said, now the other piece I want to put a caveat on is I said we're scrambling to hit this deadline. So I want to make sure your staff's had a chance to make sure we don't have any inaccurate numbers and information. So I know that they're going to review that, but I would just want to make sure that we've generally represented your community, your challenges, the type of candidates you want. I'll make some notes about adding, we're looking for stability, but also looking for experience with planning and future land use maps into the ideal candidate sections. We can make those tweaks. But generally speaking, as the brochure kind of meet your expectations? Great, okay. The next slide I want to do, and this relates to the brochure. I have some communities that have asked us to put the salary expectations in the brochure. Many organizations, I say, whatever, I recommend that you just say based upon commensurate with salary and experience and background. But I was asked, I think one of the council members had asked the HR director to give an idea of what this kind of marketplace looks like. And so since I'm here in Florida, I've done a lot of searches in Florida, but also across the country, and get a sense that now I know your organization better. I just wanted to give you kind of a snapshot of what that landscape looks like with some surrounding communities and comparable size organizations or organizations that are kind of in your area. I know right now your interim city manager is paid at close to $190,000. I do a lot of work with the city of Northport, comparable city. When I was here before, I mentioned that they were also a privately developing community. They're about 100,000, or a little smaller than you, but comparable in size. They're dealing with a lot of the same challenges you've got, largely residential, trying to diversify income, the dynamics of growth and managing all that. So I just want to give you a snapshot. I actually placed that city manager several years ago. That manager is now being paid close to $247,000. Deltona I didn't do this search, but I know from Deltona, I think Colin Basinger, one of our competitors, had done that search. The new city manager in Deltona over in Volusia County is at $215,000. In the year 2, that will jump to $225,000 in terms of salary. Largo, which is the city manager I placed last year, I don't have the current adjustments. That's going through a process now, but the Largo city manager, comparable size community, is at $230,000. So there'll be an adjustment there. I do a lot of work with Indian River County. I know the county manager really well, but I've done several of their department heads in their most county attorney position. That comparable, a little larger, and counties are a little bit different, but the comparable skill sets are very, very transferable between cities and counties. That position's at $226,000. Daytona Beach is a little bit of an aberration. I know Derek Viecher well. He was a city manager over in Polk County in my neck of the woods, but his salary was just increased in April to a little under $300,000. Clearwater, I did not do this search, but that position was recently appointed back in 2023, and that was about $240,000. And then I threw in New Smyrna Beach only because it's kind of in your marketplace. I know it's a smaller community, but just to give you an idea, having gone through that, and you guys piggybacked on that contract to bring us on board, that manager was brought on at $190,000. So I just want to give you a snapshot of what that looks like. I was asked to at least give you a sense of that. I think realistically, depending upon the unique circumstances of your candidates. You're probably in that 200 to 240, 245 area, somewhere in that ballpark. My recommendation to you, I know some of you that's a little bit of a sticker shock, but my recommendation to you is why don't we leave the position advertised as based upon commensurate with salary and expectations and experience. When they apply to us, they will tell us in general, one of the application questions we have at the time of application is, what generally are you looking for in terms of salary and benefits? So whatever number you put in the brochure, if somebody is close to that number, they're likely not to apply if they're real close to that number. So if you do it this way, most people in this business will have an idea, or they'll chat with me and get a sense of where I think the salary might be. You at least will see some candidates that might press you a little bit higher than you think you might want to pay for salary, but you'll be able to compare that with the other candidates that may be looking for a lower salary level. So I recommend not putting it in your salary or in your brochure and letting the candidates come to us. And when I triage with you, I can give you an idea of here's kind of the range that these candidates are looking for. And if there's a particular candidate you really like, and that candidate may be at the higher end, you'll at least know that, and you'll be able to compare that with the other candidates that you're considering at either semifinalist or finalist level. If that makes some sense. But I thought it'd be helpful to at least understand what that marketplace looks like.
Mr. Thomas, I have a question. When you come back to us, I don't expect the answers now, but I would like to see what the full compensation package is for all of these. And then I'd also look to you, Renina, for what the cost looks like fully burdened. So we know kind of what the base is, but what is the full compensation package, and then what is the actual cost to the city versus other cities? I think in order for us to make true decision on what the impact to our budget is going to be, we need those figures.
That's a fair statement. This is simply straight out salary at this point. Yeah. I have looked at your most recent employment agreements with your city managers that you've had in your interim. They're fairly typical in terms of retirement and benefits and car allowances and those sort of things. So I will tell you that that's kind of standard in the business. Everyone has a little, sometimes the retirement costs a little more here than it does somewhere else. Then there's some one-time cost if you're hiring somebody that's not from the immediate area and they've got relocation costs. You've got some one-time cost to address that for either physically moving the person and their family household here. Sometimes that incorporates storage and temporary housing, all those things.
And that brings up a great point, because the cost of living here in Palm Coast is obviously different than other places as well. So it's a lot to consider. But I think at least if we can gather that information, it'll help so that we can compare those apples to apples.
Without a doubt. And what I can give you a sense is you are clearly in the ballpark as it relates to the other types of benefits that we would typically see for a community of this size for the types of position you're recruiting for.
Thank you.
So, good.
Yeah. Sir, I'd like to see also the golden parachute, right? If for some reason down the road we decide, the council or future council decides to move in a different direction, in my world, when you get fired, you stop getting paid. But I know in the city manager world, much like a head football coach, they get paid out for 6 months. Ben Sass just got paid. He's going to get paid $1 million a year for through 2028 or 2030.
Yep.
And that's we've seen it. And so I think as we try to look at the total compensation package, I think we need to really take a hard look at that golden parachute as well to make sure that it's just not completely out of control. I know it's practice, but again, in my world, when you get fired, you're done.
So what I will tell you on that point, and in Florida, it's done by state statute, so there's some limitations to that regard. But what I would tell you is, unlike, and my son went to Florida State, so Florida State's a tough team to watch right now. I appreciate that, but I know if they decided to do something with their coach, there's like a $63 million payout. I can tell you those don't happen in city managers in Florida. They typically do come with a severance, and in Florida, under state statute, it's 5 months is the maximum that you can pay, and most cities follow the state statute in that process. Now, that's assuming that there's simply a change in course and direction, that they haven't done anything illegal, immoral, not malfeasance, all those sorts of things. So there's always protections there on behalf of the city that if you, for some reason, have done something illegal, immoral, or otherwise, that those severances would not come into play. But typically what you'll find in most communities is they will follow state statute.
Okay, just to be clear, so the statute says we can pay up to 5?
Yes, 5 months is the maximum that they will pay, yes.
But we don't have to.
You don't, but I will tell you that would be a fairly standard. Think about it from the standpoint of a candidate that is coming on board that's not from this area, maybe coming from out of state.
Sure.
They're coming on board, they're making a pretty significant risk personally, professionally, financially to relocate. So they're going to relocate your community. They're also making a risk on the 5 of you that they can work with you effectively and that you're going to help advance this item and he or she can help you guide that. But people are people. We never know what that looks like. And so it is fairly standard in this business to have a severance agreement. Florida has a state statute, and so 5 months is the most you can get under the state statute here. There are other communities. We see those at 6 and 9 months and things of that nature. So I would just give you a preference. Most of your candidates are going to be looking for some sort of severance protection for the reasons I mentioned before. I'm doing everything I want, but I don't know what your next election brings, and I could find myself out of favor even though I've done everything you've asked me to do.
Okay. No, I just think that's important for us to consider.
Yep, understand. And you have that language in your previous agreements. I've seen that same 5-month statute. So this is not something that's new to you, but just so you're aware, it is a state statute that limits that exposure.
And that's based on calls and without calls, right?
That's correct. You always have protection. And I want to be clear with you. We represent you. You are our client. Our contractual relationship is with you. I'm going to do my best as we work through your advisement with you and you go through this and ultimately go forward. And I'm in a unique position to help parties come together. I'm pretty creative, and I've only, in 300 searches, only had one search that I was not able to bring the parties together on a number. So we have a pretty good track record of being creative in that regard. But so on the one aspect, if a candidate is asking for something that's totally unrealistic, I can be candid with that candidate and say, you know, I do this all over the country. I don't see that type of, convince me why that's so unique to you that we need to really work through that. On the flip side, I work with a lot of governing bodies, and sometimes governing bodies don't want to do something that is kind of considered normal in the business, and it's my job to help you to say, I would typically say, this is something we would see or something close to this. How do we kind of get together? So I'm going to represent you and advise you. I'm always your client, not the candidate's client, but my goal is to bring you together and can provide some balance and candidacy on both sides of the table.
I always look at total compensation, and I think I just asked the acting city manager for, you know, a spreadsheet. We call it, in the military, we call it alpha roster. So you got your base salary, you got your compensation, and you got your total compensation. So I don't think, you know, the city manager is going to be an independent contractor. That's
sure.
That and the lawyer are the only two. So I would exclude it, the salary, you know, maybe the range, that's it. And we can work from there because like I said earlier, I'm not up for growing our government and more bloated salaries. We need to get the right person in here, but I don't think we should, you know, go into debt doing it. You understand what I'm saying?
Understand.
Yeah. Roger that.
And I don't know, Renita, is your benefit 35%, 40, yeah, somewhere? 33, 35. That's typically what you're going to find. By the time you put in all the other stuff, it's around 35% of your benefit, the base salary is what it normally shakes out to be. That's realistic with what I normally see.
And I think with that, I think Ms. Fuller told me you add 35, 37%. That range of salary for living in this wonderful city, you know, have at it. So let's not, you know, I don't, like I said, I don't want to bloat the budget anymore.
Okay, gotcha. All right. Next slide. This gets to the question, I think, in terms of timing and schedule that you had asked, Councilmember Miller. So we are done with the first part of this, the organizational assessment analysis. That's what got us to this point. With a couple minor tweaks and final review, we'll be ready to hit go. When we hit go, that's where we'll be advertising and marketing the position and capturing the candidates and engaging with them as we go further. Typically, about a week to 10 days after that process is done, I would be back working with you to do a triage. That's typically done virtually, but if you want to be here, that would just be a different cost to come up for your meeting. But most of our triage meetings we do virtually via Zoom, but I know you've had me here a couple other times as well. And at that point, we'll go through the candidates, and I'll present those folks that I think are qualified for the position, and you will typically select a smaller subset of those, typically between 8 to 10 or 12. It depends on kind of where you land. Around 12 is the most that we normally do for a community of this size as well. Those folks will be asked to complete a fairly detailed questionnaire about their background, their history, their management style, how they'll deal with some of the issues that we've identified as challenges and opportunities. Also, we'll address the components of of why they left previous positions, anything in their background that's going to be of concern, things of that nature, any questions they may have of you and of this organization. We also ask those candidates to participate in typically 3 or 4 pre-recorded questions. Those are high-level questions. What is it about the positions of interest of you, professionally, maybe things about innovation, something of that nature. We normally ask about what's not in the resume that might be of interest for us to know about as well. And just that way you get a chance to kind of see how they present themselves. And we start what we call a stage 1 media search. It's a LexisNexis kind of high level. We've asked the candidate about anything in their concern. I'm obviously talking to those candidates about that, but we also start to do a little bit more digging at the semifinalist level. We package up that all material, we ship that back to you, so you're going to have cover letters, resumes, questionnaire responses, video interview links, give you about a week or 10 days to review that material on your own. Then we'll be back reevaluating those candidates with you and talking through out of that 8 or 9 or 10 or whatever number you select down to typically somewhere between 3 to 5 candidates that you want to invite to participate in your on-site interview process. The work isn't entirely over for the candidates yet. We normally ask them to prepare a written assessment, some additional information about what we call a first-year game plan, about if they're appointed, how will they approach this position, what will they do in their first 30, 60, 90, 180 days in the balance of their first year. And you may think everybody will do that the same. I guarantee you, I've seen thousands of them. They all do them differently. But that gives you some normative insights about how they get their head and their heart and their hands around the position. And it gives you some perspectives on how candidates will approach that position. In addition to that, we do criminal history, credit, reference check, all those types of work, academic reviews, things of that nature. We also, most of our organizations for city manager positions, the managers have to do a lot of public presentations both at council meetings as in the community. So oftentimes, as a skill set, we like to evaluate how they can do a presentation. So we give them typically a 10-minute window to do a short presentation, kind of like a TED Talk. If any of you follow TED Talks, 10 minutes, you got to be able to in and out. And whatever the topic is, whether it's their first-year game plan or a challenge or an opportunity or some topic, as we get closer, if that's something you want to do, we normally factor that into the equation, and that's part of their presentation when they interview with you as a governing body. And so then we do a second deeper dive, stage 2 media search on all our candidates. So we have folks that are work with SDR that check all the major search engines, check all the backgrounds, check the social media material. Those are a media packet that you will get. We'll flag anything that we think is a finding or concern, and then you'll get all the links and all the stories. It's a downloadable file from everything from a dedication to the dog park to whatever else came up at last night's council meeting type of thing. So, but we'll flag those, so if you just want to stay on the controversial ones, we get that. If you want to read everything, it's available to you as well. And then we'll work with you for the coordination of that on-site interview process. For a position like this, which is a highly public position and a very important position as we've spoken of, normally it's a 2-day process. First day, we normally have the candidates get a chance to meet all you in some sort of informal fashion, whether that's an informal breakfast or something of that nature, or continental or something, just to kind of kick off the process. We normally have them participate in having some of your staff or someone from the community take each of the candidates out for a community tour so they can see your community, see the developments, see the projects, things like that. We always encourage that your candidates get a chance to meet your senior staff. So we think it's important. They will spend a lot of time with you, but I guarantee you as a manager, you spend more time with your senior staff. They're day in and day out. And so we know it's a stressful time for your organization going through a transition. We also know the managers, candidates are evaluating, is this the right place for me? It's a two-sided equation. So we like to involve your senior staff in sessions with each of the candidates. They're not ranking them, but I will sit in and coordinate that process and talk about strengths, concerns, weaknesses, issues of that nature. Some of our communities involve citizens panels, and sometimes we'll help coordinate whatever that might look like as well. We normally factor a public meet and greet where you would invite your boards and your commissions and all your stakeholders in the community that you work with, get a chance to meet the candidates, and we'll help you develop your press release and the bio so they can mingle with them, and we encourage you to be present with that. In Florida, because of the Sunshine Act, most of my Florida searches for city managers include a round robin on day one with each candidate, with each one of you individually for 30 or 45 minutes, depending on how many candidates you've got. So you get a chance to ask some questions that you wanted to get to know and get kind of a one-on-one meeting with each of those candidates as well. And then the second day of the process is when you as a governing body meet in this chamber, and there will be a public interview process. At the end of the day, you have to do that as a body, and we'll help you coordinate questions and processes and navigate that whole effort to go forward. Because of the transition, sometimes in the second days, we encourage an organization of this size, you might want to hold a department, an employee meet and greet as well, maybe in the early morning on the second day, where your employees get a chance to mingle and meet these candidates as well. So what we try to do is capture all that information, so by the time you're interviewing with the candidates, you've gotten the benefit of kind of a download of all the feedback we've gotten and received as well. And then at that point, after you've completed the process, you will have had background, criminal history, references, all that stuff together. You're in a position to make a decision. We will help you go through that process and help you land on your final candidate. And we will play whatever role you want. If you want us to assist you in negotiations, which we often do, we can help play that role with your city attorney in crafting that process together. And then ultimately it will culminate in that being presented as a formal employment agreement that you would consider at the end of the day and say yay and move forward, and then it's a matter of getting the person on board. So that's the way the process works. It's about a 90-day process from give or take where we're at today, once we say go, to get all the way to the end. Now, we've got some holidays to navigate. We have to navigate your schedules as well, but in rough windows, that's how it works. If you go to the next slide, which is a rough draft, these dates are not set in stone, but we're basically at the meeting today on the 19th at the top. We assume that within a day or so, we'll be ready to have this brochure go live, and then we can launch it. It takes us about a day to once we know we're a green light to hit go. That puts us where we could advertise, and we would probably be able to capture candidates up through, probably through the holidays, but a good number of those candidates will apply before then. And then that puts us in early January, where we would be meeting with you to present the candidate pool and you selecting your semifinalist. Then they've got to do all their homework and the work that we're assigning, questionnaires and video interviews. That gets us back to getting material to you around the third week or so of January, giving you a chance to review that material. Then we'd be back in the latter part of January to select your semifinalist, or select your finalists, excuse me. And then from there, all the additional criminal history, credit, background work that we need to do in getting them prepared for the interview puts us in interviews. I would say basically I've given a couple options of windows that could work. Mid to late February is where I would anticipate. So this will juggle if we have to juggle schedules, but I just want to give you kind of a flow of how it all works. Once we know to launch, it becomes somewhat self-executing at that stage. So with that, questions, I think.
I would just make one comment that, you know, if we're not satisfied with the candidate pool as of a certain deadline, we just need to be flexible. Obviously, there was a lot of comment up here about longevity, continuity, things like that. So just keeping in mind that this schedule is not set in stone. We obviously all want somebody in here on a permanent basis. No offense to Lauren, she's done a fantastic job stepping in. But just keeping in mind that, you know, if we really want the right person, let's not be afraid to extend this as needed. We don't want to. We want you to
fully understood.
Bring in, you know, a nice, robust candidate pool by then, but just keep that in the back of our minds.
Thank you for raising that. So even though we're kind of out of your hair for that first 30 days as we're marketing it, we'll be back in touch with the city, and we'll let Renina know how the candidates are coming, information we can share with you in terms of the number of candidates, the demographics, where they're coming from, our sense about how the candidate pool is evolving, without getting into the details and names and all that. And as we know, we're trying to push this as much before the holidays, but we're like that could have an impact as well. But to your point, obviously, we want to make sure you're comfortable. We have a good, robust pool when you're considering that initial triage process.
Yeah, the communication with us is greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Yep, fully understood. Absolutely.
And Ms. Johnson, when do we start the budget process?
You'll start getting updates from finance in March, April.
March, April.
Yeah. So I would anticipate that your next manager will be pretty involved with that process coming forward. They may not be at the very beginning, once again, not knowing who you're going to hire, where they're coming from, but they would be kind of stepping into the front end of that process. So they would certainly be here as you're working your way through your budget hearings and budget development and all that. Yep.
Any more questions?
I just had a question about clarity of the process in terms of not necessarily the hiring process or the selection process, but for the compensation package. I assume that's just something that we work on, come to a consensus, and then vote to approve? Is that how that works for us?
I believe you would work with the applicant in determining your salary and benefits that you want to offer to your candidate.
So basically, right now, it's not going to be in the package. It's not going to be clearly defined other than a range. Is that correct?
I'm not even recommending you put a range in.
Not
I'm
even a
gonna-
range,
yeah,
okay?
yeah. I'm
Because
just saying, based upon, so most of the people, you're a public organization, salaries are all public, that, most people will understand that, but they'll talk to me and get a sense, but most people will have a ballpark of what they think this position is worth. And if somebody comes in, for an example, many candidates will call me. If somebody says, hey, I'm making $350,000 right now, I can say, you know, you may be the greatest thing since sliced bread. I just do not see Palm Coast paying $350,000, and let's not waste their time or your time with that. But if somebody's, you know, in that range that I spoke of earlier, maybe a little bit higher, I normally say, go ahead and apply, let me know what you're looking for, and we'll talk with the council about it. And if your skill sets are such that they really like what you bring to the table, we can consider that.
Anybody that's applying will search it on Glassdoor, and it's going to give them a range for the state
Absolutely.
and the region or whatever. So that's what we have.
Yeah. So if you're comfortable with that, many of my clients do not put the range in, but I'll have a conversation with candidates about
Well,
what I think the range might be.
It makes them probe a little bit more to contact you and say, hey, well, what's the range?
Yep.
You know, it may eliminate those people early, and you don't have to worry about it.
Absolutely. As I said, I guarantee we'll see some folks that are highly compensated, but if they're way outside what I think will be politically or acceptable here, I will probably discourage them from applying for obvious reasons.
Just find us the unicorn.
I understand. You mentioned that to me before, council member. I said, we're in the business of trying to find unicorns
That's right.
sometimes, so we appreciate that.
And I had just one more question about the process. So part of your services, will that come with a recommendation for compensation package for this position at the end, or is that something that we would come?
So when candidates apply as part of when they come into our application portal, we normally say, give us an idea, we're not asking you to fully negotiate a deal, but give us an idea, generally, salary and benefits that you might be looking for. And so and I'll have that information when we're triaging. So if I say, hey, this is a candidate that's probably going to be at the higher end of this range, I just want you to be aware, if you like them, we can proceed accordingly. When they're participating in the questionnaire as a semifinalist, so now we've narrowed the pool down to 8 or 9 or 10 or whatever the number is. One of the questions I always ask is, now I'm asking them to get a little more serious about putting a number and benefits and ideas. So at that point, they'll tell you, here's where I'm at, or here's what I'm trying to get to in this range, realizing they're not negotiating the final deal. So you'll have that when you're evaluating those semifinalists, and that way you can say, all right, here's a candidate that's maybe at 200,000, here's a candidate at 250, and you can say, how do those candidates compare, and do I like enough with one at the higher level that I'm prepared to go that way? And all I would ask you, and we'd have that heart-to-heart with you at that stage, that if you're going to bring in some candidates and they've told you that they're looking at, a certain salary, that you're not bringing them in and then going to try to lowball them and say, we're going to pay them $30,000. It's not it's too much time for them to do and too much work for you and them to do.
No,
So
we
it's
shouldn't
just
be
that we
wasting
can't.
each other's time
Yeah,
in this.
you're close, at least in the ballpark of reasonableness.
What I meant more was, because this is your industry, right? This is something that you're consulting on. You're knowledgeable about what the breadth of compensation packages are across comparable cities and things like that. Are you advising in that role?
I'm
for
advising
us?
you,
Yes,
not
for us.
the
Yes,
candidate.
correct.
Yeah, so that's why I want to give you at least a snapshot of kind of what I think your marketplace will look like.
Okay.
At the end of the day, I will help you, I represent you, I will help you negotiate a package if that's desired, but I will also try to bring the parties together. But I'm in a unique position of saying, I think that's an unrealistic expectation, or it may be something totally unique, and we just have to talk through it as a board to figure out if you're prepared to flex to do something differently. But please recognize, my bill is paid by you, not the candidate. So I'm going to represent your best interest at the end of the day. Yep. Make sense?
Else? So what do we have to do? Do we need a motion to go forward with nothing?
No, Mayor, it's just through consensus. Mr. Thomas took your notes today, and then the recommended changes and action will be followed through with.
Okay.
Great. So as I said, I'll work with your staff. I appreciate their internal review. We'll clean up there's a couple formatting issues I wanted to get done as well, but anything with Lauren and the team, we can clean up, and I'll capture the items you mentioned. We'll get those together, and then we'll hit go, and we'll get things going.
Okay, thank you, Doug.
Thank you so much. Best of success to all of you. We look forward to working with you as well. Thank you.
Lasso to the unicorn.
Pardon?
I said, go lasso the unicorn.
I'll see what I can find for you there, Mayor.
I got a rope at home if you need it. So, I'm sorry, should I open that up for public participation, Marcus?
It's more of a directional item, so
Okay,
it's not necessary.
all right. So now we'll move to agenda item J, public participation. Come on up here, 1991.
That was a very interesting presentation. The city manager has a unique position, and certainly everybody agrees that that person needs to be skilled, do a job well, but in the same time, people here are still dealing with the cost of life, and people in the city are going to pay for whoever you hire. So we know the power plant is not dealt with yet. So what I'm saying is, yes, we need somebody very skilled, but we need to keep in mind that there are urgent things in the budget too. So just keep in balance. That's just a thought.
Yes, ma'am, thank you. What you got, Celia?
Celia in Banco since 91. I see the number one, we should have a bullet there. It is that the city manager should have some experience in land development and growth. It's very important to us because it's affecting greatly our quality of life, and it's the result of this election. So we have faith that you will resolve many of those issues, and having the right city manager really checking into what every departmental director will present for approval on the proper way presented. Because as all the years that I've been living here, and what it was in the original ITT plan and all the changes that has been taking place that we have not approved of, that's where we are now, it is mandatory that a manager will work under the goals of all of you that we elected you to represent us first. So this is very important because we have, right now, I speak for many thousands of us here in the city, right now the whole impression is that our city council has not been demanding what it is the need for the residents, but the other way around. The city administrators and manager have been just telling you what is wanted. So we need a manager that will look into what the residents need first. And you will be here forever, as far as my concern. You will have all our support for years to come, and you will get paid what you are supposed to be paid for having to read hundreds of pages of this with our growth, because actually the pages you have on these agendas is all about growth. It's mostly about approvals presented for growth. And it's not fair. You won't have a life on the weekends because you have to read all those hundreds of pages of agendas. And listen, I'm sorry for you, but if you don't do, then you cannot vote with a fresh mind and the right vision of what the residents need first. Thank you.
Thank you, Celia.
Hi, Denise Henry. I've been a resident for 10 years. This is in regards to the council liaison for the Stuart Marchman Act. That's very important that someone does try to at least go to a council, to one of their meetings, because this is on mental health, and Flagler County desperately needs expanded facilities for mental health. My son had a terrific accident in 2016 and has a traumatic brain injury that about 2 years he has a mental breakdown, and normally he ends up taken down to Volusia County. And Stuart Marchman, which is in Bunnell, does have small I mean, he does have a therapist there now and a prescriber, but the prescriber is only part-time. And the last prescriber who left, she was always overwhelmed with appointments. So this is something as our county grows, and especially if the medical marijuana recreation ever gets passed, it's going to increase mental health. So it's just something Palm Coast needs to really consider for future. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. I'm going to follow up on that one to see what we can do.
Okay.
We'll get our city participating in that.
All right, appreciate that.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yes, good morning. George Mayo, Palm Coast. Excuse me. First, congratulations to all our new members. I hope we go forth and do well. Congratulations to Ms. Pontieri on being vice mayor. For the new city manager, I know you're going to do a thorough look. I just hope we don't become penny wise and pound foolish and just go with the cheapest person who says, oh, I'll take this, and no, you could cut it. Sometimes that doesn't always work. I'm hoping that our new members here, I've urged this before previous council members and from county commissioners, that when schedule is allowable, that they can attend county meetings, especially if you look at the agenda, and something may involve the city. So this way you could be ahead of the curve. I go to county meetings and sometimes, okay, well, inform the city about this. We'll talk to them. If you're there at the meeting, you can get ahead of the curve and know what's coming up. And that I also urge them, as they are here now, for the county commissioners to attend our meetings, just so we can be informative of each other. Previous administrations, when we've had these council meetings, the mayor and or the city manager, when people come up public participation and ask questions, sometimes a rhetorical question, sometimes they need research, you fill out the paper and they'll get back to you. Sometimes they just need a simple yes or no. Somebody may ask a question, and the mayor and or the city manager would write them down as the public participation goes. When it's ended, they will say, oh, Mr. Smith asked this, the answer is no. Mrs. Smith asked this, the answer is yes. And you could be just done with it. So maybe we can continue that on. The lunch and lecture program, which recently I attended, the speaker was the fire chief, who did an excellent job of information and telling what's going on in the city. This is an excellent program. I know everybody wants to have small government. I hope lunch and lecture doesn't become a line item that you may want to say, oh, we could save a couple bucks and discontinue that. I think that's a good idea, and I hope you do continue it in the future. Also coming up, I saw in the news, a developer on John Anderson Highway in Flagler Beach wants to have a huge development. And they're already questioning, can they afford it? Can they swing it? Will it overwhelm them? I've said this before. I hope the city doesn't step in, and, as they've done before, and say, oh, okay, we'll extend our water and wastewater treatment to them. We already have our own problems, so we shouldn't just rubber stamp and say, oh, if you want to build in Flagler Beach, or oh, you want to build in Bunnell, yeah, we'll give you water, we'll give you wastewater. Sometimes that just doesn't work, and sometimes you just have to say no. But again, congratulations to everybody, and thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Good morning, Jeremy Davis, P-Section. I have an email out there with a FOIA request, and I just want to make sure it's publicly heard. I'm looking for a request of documentations of surveys conducted before the CO was approved at 62 Parati Lane. And then I would like evidence of drainage mitigation measures considered before y'all approved that CO. Thank you.
You got that, Ms. Johnson, right?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Any other public participation? What you got, Bruce? You're late to the party, man. What's going on? Come on up, Bruce. I saw you walk in a little bit late. What you got?
First of all, I'd like to congratulate all the people that have been elected here. I have no doubt we have lived in this city for 12 years, and it's been ignored by previous city council people. I have every confidence in the world that you will get Palm Coast on the right track again. Stop the corruption with contractors, builders, and previous employees of this city. Thank you.
Thank you, Bruce.
Jacqueline Miller, resident, aging myself, 36 years this month, of Palm Coast. And I think the last couple of years, we've had a lot of issues with city management. We've got a brand-new council. I am with the gentleman who said it before. We need to be smart in hiring city manager, and budget needs to be considered. I think some very good candidates might look at this like, no way with a 10-foot pole. You have a baby council. You have city manager over, a bunch of overturn. So I think we just need to be smart and maybe consider spending the money to get somebody who can come in here and really help you guys do your jobs well.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else? Okay, no one else coming forward. We'll close public participation.
Mike, I just wanted to just make a comment about the Stuart Marchman. If we can get more information about the exact meeting time, I assume it's a Tuesday morning, which is a meeting. I'd be willing to do it as long as we can find a way that it's not a conflict with the council meeting.
You can run that around, right, Ms. Johnson?
Or even just be a liaison to follow up after your meetings, but I appreciate you stepping up.
Yep.
That's great.
Okay, so we're down to agenda item K, discussion by city council matters not on the agenda. Anyone have anything?
I do. There was some talk about changing the time of the meetings to be consistently at 6 p.m. and perhaps proclamations prior to the business meeting to shorten the amount of time that we're here and the amount of time the public has to stay. The length of the proclamations could be determined by the city manager based on the content, and starting time would be adjusted accordingly. I think that I would like to propose that.
So you're making a motion.
Yes, I'll put that in the form of a motion.
So Mr. Stevens is making a motion that we move all meetings to night meetings. I'm trying to get it right, Ray. And proclamations being pulled back sometime before that, if we're having proclamations during that period?
Yes. Yes.
Talk to me, Goose.
So, Mr. Mayor, what Mr. Stevens is saying, we do have a current ordinance on that right now with council times, is that the ordinance says that City Council of Palm Coast shall meet in a regular session on the first and third Tuesday of every month. The first Tuesday monthly meeting shall begin at 6, and the subsequent Tuesday monthly meeting, the third Tuesday, shall begin at 9 a.m. So, Mr. Stevens' motion, if I heard correctly, you would want to amend that motion to have all meetings at night at 6 p.m. Would that be correct?
Amend the ordinance, correct.
Amend the ordinance, yeah, sorry.
Amend the ordinance. I think that would allow more people to attend, those that have to work during the day. I think that that's not unreasonable, 6 o'clock.
So do we have someone to second the motion?
I'll second it for discussion.
Exactly, I want to discuss it too.
So just a couple things to consider. I don't really have personally I don't feel one way or the other on this. So I'm fine with the outcome regarding that. I think there's two things. When we have different times, that allows different people with different shifts of work or commitments to come to different meetings. So potentially there's people that always work, in the evening, so they can't come to a meeting. The other thing I think to consider is that city staff, works all day long. And then if we're doing 6 p.m. meetings, they're additionally working potentially. I know some meetings have been extended past 11 p.m. So, they're working quite a long workday on those days. So just something to consider. I'm not advocating one way or the other because, like I said, I don't think personally I have any preference. But I'd just like to add that.
If I may, I agree with you. I think that by moving all the meetings to a night meeting, now we're precluding a different section of our citizenry. So through my initiative, we actually added a fourth workshop each month, and we made that a night workshop so that now we can have one night meeting and one night workshop, and then one morning meeting and one morning workshop. So that kind of encompasses everybody. We have had a lot of late meetings. I do agree that I think that the proclamations should start at 5:30 p.m. rather than 6. I think that's a great idea. The proclamations are fantastic for the community, but they do take a lot of time. But I think that we should keep the 2 meetings as they are, 2 in the morning, 2 at night. Another thing to think about, we have a lot of things that involve our younger population, our kids and parents, and they have soccer practice, baseball practice, football practice, school plays, things like that. And the kids sometimes can't hang around for some of the stuff that comes on our agenda until 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night. We also have, a very large retirement community, and a lot of those folks can come to the day meetings but can't hang around until 10 o'clock at night for the night meeting. So I agree with you. I think that, I get the intention, and I think the intention is well-placed to try to move the meetings to nighttime. But I think at that point, then we're just precluding a different area of our residents. So I would advocate that we keep 1 workshop and 1 business meeting in the morning and 1 workshop and 1 business meeting at night.
Mr. Mayor, I agree with doing the proclamations early. I think that makes sense. But I think the way we have things right now represents a balanced approach in conducting council business. But I do have a technical question. So this is an ordinance. So we've got to go through a full first, second reading. We just can't decide that now.
That would be correct. So it would be go through a first and second reading. Technically, it'd be like a motion. We would come back, draft up let me restart. So technically, it would be a motion. If the motion gets passed, then our team would draft up the ordinance. We would have to do a first reading of the ordinance, notice it, and then do the statutory requirement, do the second reading, and then that would be passed. But technically, it could get passed tonight, and then we would work with the city manager and staff of when it would be introduced, but it could not be introduced until the second reading of the actual ordinance.
Point of order, though. Technically, wouldn't this be a motion to have you draft the ordinance, because we have to give proper public notice prior to an ordinance being amended? So it would actually have to go through 2 more reads if this council decided to direct you to draft it.
Thank you for clarifying that. Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
My question would be, you said a second workshop, so that's 4 meetings a month?
Right.
And did they go through amending the ordinance for that?
So maybe I can help clarify. You have an ordinance that sets your business meeting times. Then by resolution, you can adopt an additional workshop, and we can have that prepared for you at your next business meeting. Second is that in order to move the agenda around of doing the proclamations in advance of the meeting, we would need to update your city council policies and procedures. So you could task Marcus and I with scheduling that for a future workshop of revisiting your policies and procedures and how you want to outline and identify the agenda.
I'm in the boat. I think I'm like Ray. I think night meetings provide the larger portion of the citizens of the city to come and participate. And if need be, it's typically on Tuesday nights. I'm sure balancing kid work-life schedule and stuff like that is not too hard. So, and everyone heard me on the radio on when I had that interview with Kirk Keller. I would like to have them all at night. So I would second that motion, if that's all I have to do, Marcus, and we can come back and try to line it up. And you guys are going to have to decide it, but I'll second that motion.
We need a vote.
Well, yeah, we still need to
So
vote,
it's
right?
already been seconded, and you've had discussion.
Okay.
What I would probably recommend, if there's no more discussion, put it out for public comment, and then come back and you guys would vote.
Okay.
If there's no more discussion at the dais right now.
All I was going to say was any methodology that we can use to streamline and make these council meetings not be 8-7 hours long, I'm all for, as long as it's not disenfranchising
Well, I'm
citizens.
I'm certainly in favor of that, and Charlie probably knows. Point, you can't speak to me in regular dialogue now. It's all bullet point. You gotta give me the bottom line up front, and we gotta run through it. So, and I don't want meetings that drag on to midnight. I've been here for meetings till 11 o'clock at night, and after a while, I'm like, I gotta go. I've got work to do tomorrow. So, and I do think we need to work on streamlining meetings, and hopefully with this slowdown in development orders and stuff like that coming through, that our agenda is not going to be 600 pages, or our packet's not going to be 600 pages for every meeting, because it shouldn't be like that. That's too much. It's like a fire hose on everyone in the community, and especially the council. And I personally haven't read through every single one of those packets, running for office, but I'll have to for sure now. And I don't want us to be burdened with that. And it's time to slow it down. Everybody knows that we need to slow down and focus on industrial and commercial growth, not so much on houses. We had that discussion just the other day. We have 16,000 houses in the queue, and the market is flooded right now. They are flooding the market with housing, and we need to slow down, get a good azimuth check, and move forward in the best interest of our city. Everyone should know we don't have the water to keep growing like we're growing right now. So until we get that fixed, we need to slow down the pace a lot. So you want to open it up? We want to open it up for public participation. Come on up, Ms. Celia. I know what you're going to say.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
If you would have ran for office like 5 or 6 years ago, you'd be up here sitting next to us. What's
Celia,
wrong?
yes, Mr. Mayor, thank you. Celia Pugliese, about to become 81 years old. I still come to these meetings because if we don't come to these meetings, and no, it's not complaining like we are accused. We don't appeal to you for a quality of life and safety. It's nothing. The ones that want the benefit are going to be winning because we are not heard otherwise. Thank you very much for supporting Mr. Ray Stevens' great proposal. It's needed. Dear Councilman Poncheri, you are witness that the meetings in the morning, if we have 4 people present, today is a special 9 a.m. meeting because there was an oath of office and everybody came here, that we voted came here to see. But you see what? In the meetings, you have seen, if we're at 4 or 5 people at 9 a.m. meetings, 10 the most, exceptionally, is too much. I come to the 9 a.m. meetings and nobody is here, simply because people has to work. People has to take care of their kids. People have to do things. When in the evenings at 6 p.m., we have whether full hall that we have to overflow, depending which is the growth plan that is going to be approved, right? Or this place is full because people is interested in coming here, and lobby for our quality of life and what is our needs as residents. So I'm going to please ask this council again we have been by thousands talking online on social media that we want these meetings to be at 6 p.m. so all of us can come here more comfortable. And when it comes to the agenda pages, you see these agenda pages and these meetings are forever because you have these proclamations before the meeting. I was here on some proclamations that took hours. Meanwhile, we elderly people with children or young that we come to the meetings have to wait all these hours for all these proclamations and patting yourselves in the back to be able to be heard our issues that we bring here, which is ridiculous. That proclamations have to be way before term, or on another date. And we come here for the business of the city of council meetings that affect us, the residents. And we want to be here at 6 p.m. because more people can attend the meetings, other than being surprised of what was decided on a meeting that they couldn't attend. Thank you.
Thank you, Celia. Any other public comments?
Yes, George Mayo, Palm Coast. I believe we should keep the schedule as it is right now. If you want to start proclamations a half hour early at 5:30 in the evening, that's fine, you can get through them. But I believe there's businesses that would rather come here if they need to during the morning meeting and come over here at 9, 10 o'clock, whatever they may have business with. They may not, small businessman may not want to take family time out to have to come to a night meeting all the time. And yes, most of our workers back there are probably salary, and they have to be here if you have 6 o'clock meetings all the time. Well, what about if you need hourly workers, as you do sometimes, to come here? Are we willing to pay overtime? Is it really worth it? Let them come during the day and take care of that business. So I really believe we should keep it at 9 o'clock, and as you have a workshop at 6, you have the meeting at 6, that should be enough time for anybody who has to come after 6 o'clock to take care of their business. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Dennis McDonald. What you're all trying to do here is great. You're trying to increase participation with the residents of this city, which is applaudable to everybody. So one of the things, though, that rings through to me is that no matter how you place the meetings, one of the things that's always a deterrent for the general public is the fact that you have this large block of proclamations and other readings that go on beforehand, and people just plain run out of time, or they run out of patience, or whatever the case may be. Now, I've been coming to these meetings probably for about close to 15 years now, and that has always been a deterrent for the people that really just want to come to you and speak to you, and that don't come all the time. These are not people that make a practice of coming to your city council meeting. So, that's a great idea, and I think you ought to incorporate that, if nothing else, on the proclamation sides, and that is to have that earlier, and then have a city meeting that is absolutely time sensitive, so that people know that when they come here at 6 o'clock or they come here at 9 o'clock, exactly what's going to be on the agenda, and you haven't got something that takes, a half an hour or 45 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McDonald. Any more public comments? If not, we'll close public comments. For me, during the campaign, I hope I'm not getting too loud, too close to the microphone. For me, during the campaign, I would always sit back there, probably where Miss McDonald's sitting, because I didn't want to be on camera. Everybody see me picking my nose or touching my ears and stuff. But there was one meeting that was at 9 o'clock, and I took my phone and I panned around the room, all the way up to the dais, to the end of the dais. Some people may remember that video. There was nobody in here. The only people that were here for that meeting was the staff. And I'm like, wow. And I truly believe that's one of the reasons why some of the stuff has been pushed through and rubber stamped, if you will. And I think, personally, for me, I'd rather have the meetings at night. And as far as compensation for the city is concerned, and I know Charlie's been through it, GS employees are typically salaried employees. And if you were in a high-level position, if you're in a management position, if there was a meeting, you offset your hours. And I don't see any reason why we can't offset the hours for senior-level leadership. Just as a consensus, for the staff that's in the room right now, look up here for a second, look at me. If in the last month or the last month's meetings, how many of you have stood up and spoke to the city council regarding your department or anything that's going on in this city? Raise your hand if you've stood up in the last month to give a presentation to the city in any regards. Okay, so regular hourly employees don't typically attend these meetings, and people that are salaried know to offset their hours, and I wouldn't be asking, I don't want the city to pay any overtime to anybody if we can avoid it. But the deal is you offset your hours if you're a salaried employee, and you come in a couple hours late, you come in a couple of hours early to offset those hours, and that's not breaking any type of state statute, is it, City Manager?
No, that is.
Offset your hours?
No.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, I don't have any issues with what you're saying, but we do have to be cognizant that this is the city manager's role. So with the offset of the hours, it would be up to the city manager. The council can make a recommendation.
Yes.
But
Well, I'm just looking for alternatives on how to do it.
Understood.
and
Just want
facilitate.
to make sure we stay on the right line of this, that's all.
Yeah. Okay, and I guess we could say the proclamations, you mean backing that off an hour before the actual start of the 6 o'clock meetings?
So Mayor, if I can, we would, per your direction, you can ask to put your city council policies and procedures on a future agenda item, and we can bring that forward to you, and then you can discuss it and then vote at that time. But it does have, because it is a resolution, it does have to be noticed. And then typically, council has liked to workshop the items before they go straight to a business meeting. So if it's council's pleasure, you can direct staff and we can put that on a future workshop for you.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be my suggestion, Mayor. I think this is not something that should be voted on in a knee-jerk reaction way. Maybe we holistically look at all of council's policies and procedures and try to address, because I would assume that there are several things that this council probably wants to address, and we need to make sure we do it appropriately. I do take pause with the comment that it's just easy for people to juggle around families at night. It's not, and I have one child, and it's not easy. So we need to be respectful and consider all of our residents, and so I think that this is something that we probably need to workshop, get more information from staff, and really think about this, because I agree, I want more public participation as well, but at the last meeting, there was a night meeting, and there was hardly anybody here. Matter of fact, at the end, the mayor made the comment. His comment was, well, there's nobody left for public participation, so that's it. Public participation, I don't really think is dependent on 9 a.m. or 6 p.m. It's dependent on the length of the meeting. So by adding that fourth workshop, we can relieve some of that pressure to pile everything in to one workshop a month and probably get more public participation that way. I think it would also increase public participation for Mr. Stevenson's motion to have those proclamations early. But I still think that this probably needs to be looked at holistically in a workshop so that we can address all of these policies and procedures at once.
So do we need to clarify the motion? Because,
well, if Ray is willing, we could just have him withdraw his motion, and we can
get guidance to the city manager?
Well, the motion was something separate than the policies and procedures, correct?
Correct.
Oh, you got
The
policies
motion
and
require
ordinances.
an ordinance change. The other things that we're talking about, the proclamations, would be a policies and procedures change.
Yes, would you be willing to do that, Ray? Withdraw your motion, and we'll just go through and we'll workshop policies and procedures to try to balance out as far as backing off those proclamations to give way to, that's up to you. It's up to you.
Well, I might as well withdraw the motion because it doesn't seem like I'm going to get the support. It's not going to pass. But I just do want to respond to the statement that, small businessmen or people that are in have small businesses would rather come in the morning, but that seems to me that means that they would have to shut their business. And I think it would be more preferable if I were a small business person to want to come in the evening. But I will withdraw the motion for brevity's sake.
Okay, so we can look at policies and procedures, if we can get that on an agenda.
Yes, Mayor, I can add that to your December 10th City Council workshop, your City Council policies and procedures. And then as far as the fourth workshop, Ms. Pontieri, that hasn't been adopted via a resolution, would you like to do that after the policies and procedures workshop?
I apologize. I thought we did. I thought we got consensus for that, but I must be mistaken. But I think that we should just include that in the discussion for the policies and procedures.
Understood. Thank you for the direction.
So are we good to go on that? G to G? So what's next?
Mr. Mayor, so this might be just a good time. Usually, each council member just goes
Yes.
around like Mr. Stevens and says, hey, do they have any further comments that was not on the agenda?
Okay. So you got anything, Charlie?
Congratulations to everyone. Look forward to working with everyone and with dignity and respect on behalf of our citizens and driving change in a positive way. So look forward to it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Ray, that's all you had?
Yeah, that's all I had.
Got
Yeah, I just wanted to thank my wife and kids and, the friends and family, as well as the people that voted for me and supported me during the campaign. Hopefully I can do my best to represent everybody within the city to the best of my ability and work with the council to kind of get us going forward in the right manner and try to, make this city a greater place to live.
I'll echo Councilman Gambaro's comments. Congratulations to all of you gentlemen. I look forward to working with you and getting some positive things for our city, so looking forward to it. Thank you.
For me to close it out, and then we'll go to the attorney and city manager. This has been a long process, and Tracy and I, we were reflecting on this last night, and we have been in the city since the first mayor. So that's how long we have been in this city, and so I'm the fifth of 5, and I think we ran a very good campaign. I'm a very passionate person, and I can get, and everyone knows, even Teresa knows, I can get fired up when things aren't going right and people are being mistreated. I have no tolerance for that. I think we have an excellent opportunity, and as I said in one of the candidate forums, we're at an inflection point in the history of this city. Either we're going to strive and go forward and do great things and have a very vibrant city with great lives and places to work for everyone, or we're going to be a tax-burdened society and people are going to be fleeing in droves. And that's not what I want. I want our kids. One of them's a nuke sub-officer, wants to be an astronaut. He has a degree in aerospace engineering. One's studying mathematics at Florida State. And I want those kids to be able to come back here and live and work because this is their hometown. Those kids, Christian was in the first class that went from Belterre through Matanzas High School graduation. He was that first class. That's how far our history goes back in this city. And we want to stay here, and we want everyone to be healthy and happy, and for us to be a successful community. And I want to have a successful administration. I want all of us to work, together and not have the madness that we've seen come from this dais in recent memory. And I pledged that I'm going to do my best to do that, and I hope everyone else will pledge that to their city and their residents. But I am very excited. I'm fired up, and Tracy knows I don't get very fired up about many things, but I am fired up about helping this city and getting us on the right track. So with that, and I'm for those of you that don't know, me and Teresa have been. We've had a healthy relationship since back during the start of the last election cycle, and I've bounced things off of her. And we actually had, when I decided to run, Mr. Darrell Boyer, he's not here, but he said, you guys need to sit down and have a meeting. And Teresa came to Teresa is actually my council representative for my district of my city. And she came out, I wanted to show her something on Lee about a culvert. And I'm like, okay, Teresa, I was like, this is Mike Norris as a constituent. I want to show you these things first. And I showed her that, and then we went to my house and we had a sit-down discussion and, about my expectations and what she's gone through to get elected and what I would go through to get elected. And I think we ran a very good campaign. We had a great marketing campaign. We didn't spend very much money, and I'm thankful for the people that contributed to my campaign. But as I've told people before, I am an outside hire. I am not in the know with all the the big wigs and stuff of the city. I'm just plain old Mike, retired military officer, own 2 small businesses with my wife, and we're here to raise our family, and that's how it's been since we moved here in 2006. So with that, I'll close it out and send it over to you, Marcus. You got anything you need to discuss?
Just wanted to say congratulations to Mr. the Mayor, Mr. Miller, Mr. Stevens. I look forward to working with you and advising you, and I'm always here to help if you guys need anything. Congratulations.
Thank you, sir. You got anything, City Manager?
Yes, sir. Want to echo Marcus's comments. Thankful for new leadership and welcome working with you guys. Just also want to clarify for the record, we did receive the revised certification from the supervisor of election while we were sitting in the meeting today. So Kaylee has it and we'll attach it to the minutes. The tabulation system doubled the registered voters in the unofficial results. So just wanted to make sure we're clear there.
So I'm not crazy?
No.
Okay.
And then to answer Mr. Mayo's comment about at the development in Flagler Beach, we have had no conversations with that development group. So just wanted to answer Mr. Mayo's comments. I will work through the Stuart Marchman liaison appointment, and once we get the finalized brochure for the city manager search, I'll be sure to send it to you as well. And that concludes my comments, Mayor.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
We're adjourned.